Hello and welcome to the show. It is Matt Reynolds hanging out with Shanku this week. Corban, he's down sick, so unfortunately, we wish him well. I think he's going to be good. Don't worry, he will recover. He's going to be just fine. But he was out in Fort Collins this week. But we've got a lot of stuff to go over, starting with, like we just mentioned, Fort Collins, Indianapolis, and Rocky Mount from this past weekend, as well as a really big weekend, Shanku, coming up, including a girls event in Atlanta at Next Play, which is going to be awesome there, and 3 boys events all around the country. It's going to be a big week. I don't know if it's technical difficulties are there or not, but I could not hear you, Shanku. So
can you hear me now?
There we go.
There we go.
Got to turn that mute button off. But
yep.
We are rocking and rolling now.
Yeah. So I was just saying, I'm going to be in Kansas City this weekend. Looking forward to it. One of the nicer facilities in the country, probably brand new at home field. So looking forward to KC this weekend. I was off this past weekend, but still caught some games online. So excited to dive into it. It's
going to be awesome. Yeah. Let's do what we always do. We'll start with the top 10. And I'll say we've got some plays this week. This might be the best top 10 yet, but I haven't seen them all yet. So we'll let John hit it and roll the top 10. Starting with 10, we've got an ankle breaker. Oh my goodness, Jackson Tabor. But the best part is he made the shot. Like, thank God he made the shot because so many.
Otherwise, it's a wasted highlight. Amen. Here it is, 5'8", Jalen Watson of Pack Basketball, throwing down a 360 dunk in game. 5'8". I mean, that's ridiculous.
Ooh, wish I could jump that high. Here is Eli Ellis. He's a content machine. The fake pass to the corner and hits the defender with a sick turnaround J. The kid can play some ball. We're going to talk a lot about him in the show. He can ball out.
For sure. Number 7, we've got Travis Ruggs with the putback. I'm not sure if the pass was off the glass intentional or not, but either way,
we'll say it's intentional.
We'll say
it's intentional. Here's Cap City Scrappers. Art Foster drives and oh my goodness. Yeah. Goodness gracious, he's flying. That looks like a commercial.
I think I saw him do that last year too. Yeah. Number 5, we've got Lawson Rice of Grand Park Premier, their Pro16 team. Oh my God, he cocked it back with the left.
I think my face in the background says all you need to see there. That was nasty. That was nasty. At 4, we've got Hill City Crash in overtime. The steal and the bucket. Branson with a big bucket and was able to win the game, I might add, in OT.
Rhode Island Elite, number 13, Adama Tambedu with the nasty poster head tap.
Oh, that was nasty.
God. That blew up.
At 2, we got another one. It's Gio. Oh my gosh. Team Museum rises up for the poster. And of course, he's got to let you know about it with the head tap afterwards too.
At number 1, we've got Sabree Scott, Team TLBA. Oh no. Oh. The bench loves it. The crowd loved it.
I appreciate he tried to contest it, but
you got to make a business decision. Some of these guys.
No. That could be your opinion. That's a bad opinion. But no, you gotta absolutely give it all you got.
I agree.
You know, gotta pull that Chet Holmgren energy for the Thunder. Go give it all you got, and if you get put in the rim, I mean, obviously no one wants that. But hey,
KD made a business decision last night against jumping with Ant. So.
Ooh, yes, he did. We won't talk about that. But Suns are done. 4-0. All right, let's move on to the next part of the show. Some great plays there. I have to say, Shanku, I've watched the show every week. I don't even think it's close. That was the best week. And the plays are getting better. The teams are getting better. We're starting to see teams really find their groove. For those that are new to the league and new to the show, really, as the league goes, we're now in week 6? Week 6. It's crazy. Week 6. So session 6. And there's an algorithm, and for the standings, and it's 70% of it is wins and losses. That's obviously what matters the most. But then on top of that, you have other things that do matter, strength of schedule, because in a league like this, not everybody can have the same strength of schedule. That's just how it goes. So that does matter. And then the last piece of it is point differential, because it matters how much you win by. That goes for the Pro16 standings as well as the next standings. Both leagues, both sides of the league, I should say, will converge in Phoenix, and it's going to be a really exciting time. So let's go without further ado. For the very first time, we have a Pro 16 standings update, and everybody has played except for one program who will begin their journey in Memphis. They'll be the 16th team here at the 15U standings. We'll start in 15U, and as you look at this, I think it's really impressive. Nebraska Supreme won 15U last year. For them to be back here again shows a lot. SA Future, a program out of San Antonio that everybody knows about, Kingston Fleming's in the older group, but for them to be where they are now, I think says a ton about their younger groups. Both of their younger teams are playing extremely, extremely well. Coos Elite has taken a jump. They're out of Houston, Texas. It's been a very impressive, Shanku, to see just what their program has done with PJ Cousinard. And then one program that you know really well is AO Flight, Shanku. They just they perform. You can basically count on it. They're going to show up every weekend at each age.
Yeah, AO Flight, they have some really high-level prospects in JJ Watt, KD Hicks, KD Hicks, he's a player, 6'3" guard for them. He's D1 prospect in my opinion, but he's been hurt, so hopefully he'll be back by Memphis, but I'm excited to see what he can bring back to the table, because they're already ranked number 4.
Select basketball is in there. They seem to always be around that, no matter what age we're going to talk about. Great coaching. It does something for you. And I'm not trying to be rude, but some coaches can coach better than others. That's just the reality. We're not talking just one section. That's the whole league as it is. One Family, they're 6th, probably want to better that standing, I'm going to assume, with all the other teams. Grand Park Premier, 7th. Rhode Island Elite, 8. BTI Select, 9. Team Scoot, 10. The Hill Elite, 11. They've got quite the prospect, though, Shanku. I mean, anytime you got a young man that's at 15 years of age with Adrian Isaacs and the size that he has, I'm really, really excited to see what Adrian Isaacs is going to develop in over the next few years.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. I mean, as a 15-year-old, 6'11", moves like a guard. His future is special, super bright, but I think he could compete in 17U and really hold his own, but he'll be dominant in the 15U age division this year.
I mean, look, we expect him to be an MVP caliber player at 15U, and so far, so good. I mean, if we were having a mid-season update, he would be number 1 at 15U. Doesn't mean some other player out there can't jump him, but as of now, he's been terrific. Rounding out the 15U standings, as you look at it for the Pro 16, you've got Las Vegas Knicks at 12, Southern Ties at 13. They struggled, and Dallas a little bit going 1-3. West Virginia Gold and Team Museum. That's your 15U standings. I think as we've really looked at the cycle of recruiting, Shanku, the college coaches just aren't. 5-10 years ago, they're looking at 15U prospects. That's not really happening as much now. So whether it's the next side or the Pro 16 side, what I would say is continue to focus on development.
100%, I agree. College coaches these days are mainly looking for 26s and 25s, even some 24s that are unsigned. But those 27s, unless you're super jump off the page, but you're likely not going to get. You might get some interest during the live periods, but yeah, like you said, focus on that development and just trying to improve your game day by day.
16U, they will be paying attention to. Of course, 17U is the top, but 16U, there is a lot of eyes that are going to be on that, particularly with some of the players that are in those ages of the circuit. So let's, without further ado, get to the 16U Pro 16 standings, where SA Future has flat out dominated. They've got a whole squad. Shanku, I know you've seen this squad. You have to start with Isaiah Ward. He is obviously a nationally ranked prospect, very talented young man, but it just keeps on going. Donovan, the whole group, they've got one of the best teams, and no shocker that they're number 1 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Isaiah Ward, obviously, stealing the show, is 6'6" guard, one of the best passers on the circuit, I'd say. But then Donovan Chris, his player is not yet nationally ranked, but I think that's going to change very soon. One of the best shooters, off movement, off catch, can play off on the ball a little bit, and then 6'5" with plus wingspan. Just his defensive ceiling is so high, and I think he'll be well within the top 100 by the end of the year.
I got to be honest, coming into the season, I knew really well the 17U. I knew, obviously, Isaiah Ward. I knew Donovan. I knew the squad they had. I think the 16U will finish better than the 17U. Now, that being said, we haven't seen Kingston Fleming's yet for them. Right. So we shall see. He may have something to say about that when he comes back. Sticking with the 16U standings, as you look through West Virginia Gold, this is by far their best team in their entire program. Josh Pratt leads the way for them, but they've got many prospects on this team, and Shanku, they performed very well in Indianapolis this past weekend. The Las Vegas Knicks, again, another program that this is their best team in their program. Their 16U team that Coach Lamar Bigby is coaching and developing. And I do say developing, folks, because he is developing. Lamar has some guys, potentially 5-6 Division I players on that squad. YGC 36, Marcus Smart's program out of Dallas. They're in 4th, and they're a really, really tough program. I think this is as balanced as it's going to get. AO Flight, Iowa Barnstormers Gold, Select Basketball, and Southern Ties. Those top 8 to me, Shanku, really, I could see any of them winning, like legitimately. Southern Ties had a tough weekend down in Dallas in their regional, but if you look at early in the season, they really performed well, and they were without Neo, one of their best defenders, for several of those contests.
Yeah, I think Southern Ties, the team that could surprise people. They might not have the biggest size in the front court, but I mean, their guard play is elite, and they play a gritty brand of basketball. They're well coached by Coach Whitmire, and I think they're a team that can beat anyone in the country, really. They've had a lot of success over the last year or so.
No doubt. They beat Houston Hoops, one of the EYBL premier programs, over the past 10, 20 years. And you look at what they've got, they definitely have some playmakers. So it's going to be exciting to see. Rounding out number 9 in the 16U standings for Pro 16 is MPJ Elite. Nebraska Supreme at 10, Coos Elite 11, BTI at 12, One Family at 13, Team Scoot at 14, Team Warwick and the Dakotas at 15, and Grand Park Premier at 16. Something of note, for those that did not know, Phoenix is our Pro 16 finals event for 15U and 16U. 16U will have a play-in game. There is a few extra teams, meaning teams 16, 17, 18 will have to play in a 3-game bracket to see who gets in. Just like the NBA does, the 16th seed will be obviously the one that's waiting on the other 2. But there's going to be a playing game there, and that's going to be very, very exciting. Everyone will go to Phoenix. It's going to be an awesome time out there. It will be hot, if you didn't know, because July in Phoenix is, don't bring your sweaters. There's no reason for that. But we're excited to be out there. And Shanku, I think the play-in tournament for 16U has a chance to have some really appealing games through the stretch.
Yeah, I love the idea. I mean, it added such a fun element to the NBA, and I think it'll do the same for our league. And just gives some teams some extra motivation to really push in, if you're especially on the edge, the outer edge. But yeah, I love the idea.
Let's flip the page. 17U, the age group that everyone has their eyes locked in on. And there is more teams than you see. There's only 16 teams listed. But I'm actually going to go back to front on this one, because there's teams that are on the outside looking in. Yes, the outside looking in. They would not be in the bracket. Only 16 teams from the Pro 16 make it. There's 21 teams at 17U. So here are your teams that are on the outside looking in. At 21, you've got West Virginia Gold. They flat out struggled. It was not the team that we saw a year ago. Similar players, but just didn't have their best stuff this past weekend. And that's the way it goes. If you don't perform, you end up 1-3, and you're in the 21st bottom spot. At 20, you've got the Las Vegas Knicks. They're also 1-3. SA Future. The surprise, the absolute surprise to me is SA Future being in this spot. However, you have to remember, Kingston Flemings has not played a game for them yet in the Pro 16. So there's a lot to still be determined. There's still a long season ahead with 2 big weeks in Memphis and Wichita before we get to the Pro 16 finals. But currently they're at 19. Team Scoot is at 18 at 2-2. Also at 2-2 is Nebraska Supreme. And that now brings us back into the graphic there that you saw of the top 16. Looking at 16, you've got Grand Park Premier. They went 2-2 this past weekend. They've got some things to work out. Some steps to take with their team. CPSA, talented team. They've got some talented players. That being said, they're in the 15th spot. So they are safe, but they're not quite safe. The play-in is going to be for teams 16 to 21. So 15, you're in. You're safe. AO Flight, who placed 2nd in the league last year, is at 13. I know the team in front of them wants to improve their standing as well, One Family. It's really cool to see. Look, we're not sitting here rooting for anybody, but it is cool to see the parity in the league. The fact that One Family and AO Flight, who ran the league a year ago, are at 12 and 13. show that there's a little bit different of a depth this year. World-class Renegades, they moved up from next. They are at the 11th spot. Both of LaMelo's squads, one of One Elite and one of One LaMelo Ball, they're in the top 10 at 9 and 10. They went 3-1, both of them did. And basically, there's a slew of 3-1 teams here, starting with World-class Elite, all the way up there to the 5th spot. Everybody's 3-1. So Kuz Elite, BTI, YGC 36, Southern Ties, all 3-1. And then you have your top 4. Select Basketball, undefeated. Team Museum, undefeated. TLBA, undefeated. Rhode Island Elite, undefeated. I think, Shanku, there, if I had to guess right now, there's probably 8 to 10 teams that could win 17U. And it's going to depend on a few things. One, health is important. Kingston Fleming's an SA future. They're not even in the top 16 right now, but he's not healthy. So health is key there, not just with him, but with any team. You've got to keep your top guys healthy. I think there's going to be a lot of movement, especially when we see these teams match up in Memphis and Wichita, where all of the regions are together.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's only been, most of these teams have only played four games, so still low sample size, very fluid rankings so far, standing so far. But I think BTI United still my pick. I know they lost in their opening weekend, but that duo of Nick and Xavier is going to be tough to beat.
It is, but there's quite a few duos. We're going to break down the Pro 16. I am the only human, I'm pretty sure, on planet Earth that has seen every team in person. If you have, then I guess, hey, you can comment and let us know if you're one as well. Maybe you watched online, so I guess that's a little cheat code, though. Again, I said in person. But I've seen them all, so I'll break down those a little bit later, but I believe we've got our first guest of the day. Let's go to our man, Ronald Thomas, who joins us now from Grind Family.
Yeah.
Ron, how we doing?
What's up, Coach? I have some connection issues.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We got you loud and clear now. We are good to go. Well,
hey, how's it going?
Good.
Oh, good. Well, start us off. We're going to try to reconnect there. See if we can get okay. Now we're good. Now we're good. Start us off. Tell us about your journey in basketball. Just how did you get into this whole program with Grind Family Chicago, and how did this all come about?
Oh man, it's been a marathon, man. Basketball has opened up so many doors and has been such a blessing and such a significance in my life. Actually, our program got started maybe 4 or 5 years ago in the COVID years, and we was dealing with Will Bynum, a professional basketball player from Chicago, a Chicago legend, 8-year NBA player, 14 years in professional ranking. So me, him, and Tim Anderson and my guy Deontay Grace at Basil Evelyn, we wanted to bring about a safe haven for kids to have something to do during the COVID season. You know, everything was pretty much closed down. It was so hard for times was just so hard. And we used basketball as a way to kind of curb that. And we got started with some kids that's still into the program now. A lot of fundamental skill work. We work with the community, JLM Community Center on the west side of Chicago, where we dealt with impoverished neighborhoods. But like I said in the beginning, we just always use basketball to turn a bad thing into a good thing. So Grind Family Chicago, our first team, we had Ahmad Bynum, John Polikides, who's at Yale now, Jacoby Hetty, who just signed with Central Michigan, Amarion Savage, just to name a few. And right now, who you guys see with us now, EJ Braylon was a part of that first team, his 8th grade year. So we started off in, I want to say, prep hoops, just local tournaments. Last year, we was garnered the opportunity by you guys at NXTPRO, and it's been nothing but amazing, man. The opportunity that our kids get, and the structure that the circuit ran in, and I tell people all the time in Chicago, man, those live periods are just off the chain. So we're really excited about the opportunity that's been granted to us. We were having a lot of fun.
Yeah, Absolutely, Coach. And you talked a little bit about during COVID. I know there were some hard times for everyone, but talk about you guys are doing something a little bit bigger than basketball. You're kind of helping out the community in Western Chicago. Kind of talk about what you're doing off the court to kind of help kids and help them become better basketball players.
Well, like I said, we do a lot of community work. I deal with a lot of players in the Chicago area, not just players that play within our program. Some kids that are less talented. I just did a camp for maybe 13 kids that are dealing with probation kids that had got in trouble. So it's like a second chance program. Like I say, we just always use basketball to try to turn a bad thing into a good thing. You know what I'm saying? So we work with the church. We work with another organization called Build. It's another organization on the west side of Chicago, further west. That kind of in the same neighborhood, in the same area of business. It's working with kids that are dealing with all different type of poverties and different things, and it's just we just try to use basketball as a safe haven.
Oh, that's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Well, it's one of the many reasons we're happy to have you guys with us. Let's talk about your players a little bit. You've got some talent across your rosters. I want to start with AJ Chambers. He's been having a big time season.
Oh, yeah. As everyday guy, different things. A great leader. Won a state championship this year at DePaul Prep as a sophomore.
I think we're having connection issues.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate Coach Thomas while we got him. We'll give some shout outs to a few of his guys. AJ Chambers, really talented point guard, Shanku, and Cameron Mercer, son of former NBA player Ron Mercer, one of his better guys, as well as George Gray. He's got a loaded roster. So
for sure.
Apologize for the connection issues, but hey, that's what you got to do here on the Next Pro Show on the fly here.
Hello?
We're back?
We'll keep it moving.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, we'll let you talk about your guys a little bit before we run.
Oh yeah, AJ, like I said, a state champion, really great kid, really great leader. He's all about winning. Doesn't care about how many points he got. The only score he sees is wins and losses. I think we lost maybe 3 games in 2 years that we've been playing. So like he's a phenomenal player, a great kid to coach.
Yeah, he was super fun to watch last year. I'm glad you brought him back, but I enjoyed watching him this past weekend online, just a floor general. But like you said, just cares about the wins and losses, which is what matters.
Yeah. Really great kid.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate the time. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We will catch you here soon on a court. Keep doing great things, and we're looking forward to keep seeing you go up those standings as they're getting closer and closer. We only got 1 month left.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yes, sir.
All right, that was Ronald Thomas. We will keep it moving. Next up, we're going to really talk and get into a breakdown of the Pro 16. Obviously, we did the standings. But primarily we're going to focus on 17U for this segment and just get after it. We've got some video of some of these teams, but really just felt like it's time to break them down further. They're off this week. All the Pro 16 teams are off. They will return in Memphis for the very first time together, and then followed by that at the live period that Coach Thomas was talking about in Wichita. So first, let's start with the reigning champions of last year at 16U, which was select basketball. Nash Humphreys is really their engine, Shanku. And I think when you look at select basketball, they are like getting off the bus. I'm just going to keep it real tonight on the show. That's just how we do it. They aren't going to scare anyone. And you're going to look at the cover of the book and say, are we sure they should be Pro 16? Are you sure? Like, are they any good at basketball? And then the same teams that say that, they're smacked down by 10 or 15 before you know it, because the team plays the right way. They move the ball, and they're extremely well coached.
Yeah, like you said, they're super well coached, like a well-oiled machine, if you will. They just didn't mention Nash Humphreys, but they've got some other dudes, and they're the only team that's beaten BTI United so far. So if that tells you a little bit something, that's a dangerous team. So that just gives you a little glimpse into what to expect with Select.
Here's what I'll say. I don't think Select finishes in the top spot where they currently are. I don't. And hey, if you want to take that as motivation, anyone is welcome to take any of this as motivation to make them better or prove me wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. That being said, I think that they're going to get some teams just like they did BTI United, who's one of the most, if not the most talented team in the Pro 16 from top to bottom. They've got 2 guys in the top 32 in the country. But you got to show up and you got to play the games. And here's the deal. Select is going to be able to knock off some of those teams because they shoot the 3 ball. It's the biggest equalizer in basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, well-oiled machine. They move super well without the ball. They understand spacing concepts more advanced than most 17-year-olds. Super well coached. Coach does a great job with them. Obviously, had some guys with Liam Campbell, Case Wineout last year who play the game at a super high level. And he's kind of brought back some of those same concepts into this squad and might not be most talented in terms of highly recruited players, but they all know how to play basketball.
No doubt about it. All right, let's keep moving. Team Museum. I want to talk about them. We got to start with Big Eric. Super talented, 7-footer. Anytime you get that, but he's skilled, folks. He's skilled. My man is skilled. You see him coming through the lane here. He can do that in transition. He moves very well, very fluid, but he can shoot the basketball. And that's what you got to do in this day and age. Oh, and he can dunk too. He can do that too. He has the ability, Shanku, to, I think, keep rising up the ranks. He's at 48 in the country, but it's that right there. The fact that he can shoot the ball so effectively at his height, also plays defense. And yes, he can do the fun dunks and all that stuff. He's got it all, but I think the shooting and the skill of Eric really show and shine through well. And I think you see a lot of that Euro-style game. He's come over from Germany here in the last 12 months and really adapted well to the game.
Yeah, Eric Iba, I mean, his touch just from all 3 levels of the court is just so special for a 7-footer. And then also, I think another thing college coaches at the highest level will look at is his hands. His hand-eye coordination is so impressive for a 7-footer. Just catches everything above the rim. Good lob. It's literally a legit lob threat as a vertical spacer, but catches tough passes. Just his hand-eye coordination for his size is just really special.
And he competes. And quite frankly, that's what we have to talk about next about Team Museum. They flat out compete. I mean, you saw Gio on the top 10 with the dunk that he had. But, I mean, the list goes on and on with this Team Museum team of guards that can just flat out turn the page and, you're in trouble. Like they're putting you in a spot that is not a comfortable spot. And I know it's not a team that you've seen in person yet, but I think when you see them, you're going to be really excited just at the level of play that they're going to bring to the floor.
Yeah, I saw, I think, 1 or 2 of their games from this past weekend. They cruised through their first 3. They had a tough matchup against Team Spates, who's one of the top next teams, in my opinion. And they pulled it out in a gritty way. And I think that was a good test for them. And their just kind of handleness on the game was really impressive to see.
And Eric was out for that game about halftime. He went out. Give Team Spates credit. I'm not going to act like that's the only reason that it was close. Team Spates was winning the game when he went out. They're a talented next team. We got to give Mo Spates group some love. Mo, we're shouting you out on the show. So Mo Buckets, he's got a squad. Let's talk about TLBA. We have to talk about them. They're the talk of the town. If you look, I think a lot of people wondered what to expect. And quite frankly, we didn't give them a tough enough schedule this week. I'm just going to call it what it is. We gave them a light schedule, and Eli Ellis and TLBA went to work. It started in this game here where you're seeing highlights against Pursuit, who was a next program that got an opportunity to play some really talented teams this weekend. And unfortunately, just didn't have their best stuff at all times. That's the way it goes. But also, let's just not act like TLBA is not really good. They were blowing out teams in a disrespectful manner. But the thing I got to talk about Eli is, look, a lot of people think Eli Ellis, and I think they think influencer, Instagram, always got 1 million TikTok followers. The dude is a hooper. He can ball. I don't care what league, what brand, whatever. The man can ball. There's a reason he was the OTE MVP. And Shanku, I think a lot of people are going to wake up when they see this young man play and say, oh, wow, yeah, he can go. I mean, this isn't just some gimmicky thing. Sure, he knows how to work social media, and I think that's awesome. But the dude was hitting some pro level, tough shots and just making people look silly.
Yeah, I mean, Eli is just so skilled. It's really just blasphemous how he's not ranked at this point. I'm sure that'll change very soon, but
well, he is ranked. He is ranked. So I'll stop you there. There's one service he's not ranked in.
Okay.
We're not going to name, but he is ranked in the other as high as 66. Which look, he should be ranked. The kid can play.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things that I think the fact that he has all the followers works against him when it comes to basketball, quote unquote people that maybe haven't watched him. And when you go see him in person, it's box office. I mean, it doesn't matter who you put him against. I'm very excited to say, and I will say, we're going to throw the gauntlet at him in Memphis and Wichita, and we'll see how they come out through those 9 games. They'll play 4 in Memphis, 5 in Wichita. And I'm excited to see what he'll do, but I'm not one part of me is worried about Eli Ellis or TLBA performing. They're going to perform. And they're going to be one of the best teams in this circuit, if not the best team. We'll get to predictions later and kind of where things lie. I know you've already said, obviously, BTI. I haven't come out and said anything yet, but I'll give you some thoughts on kind of where I think really things are, because I think some teams are very much separating themselves. But we cannot stop there. When talking about TLBA, I think, okay, there's some people that'll give Eli his love, and rightfully so. Like I just said over the last 3 minutes, he's very talented. But let's talk about Isaac, because Isaac Ellis was the biggest surprise of the weekend. Again, I knew he could play. Wasn't like I didn't think he could play at all. But y'all, he flat out performed. And as you're going to see through these highlights, he can do a little bit of everything. He can get to the rim. He can create offense. He definitely can do that right there, which is shoot the basketball. I think a lot of people, Shanku, maybe have underestimated the play of Isaac Ellis, similar to his brother as, he's just got all these followers, but the kid can play too.
Oh, absolutely. And about Isaac, he's class 2026, so he's playing up in age division. And I mean, he was dominant this past weekend, playing against guys a year older than him. Obviously, that smooth lefty stroke, but his off the dribble shooting was just really impressive to me. Just all the confidence in the world, like his brother, just willing to take. See, from
that three right there. He's shooting from beyond the NBA three, like well beyond it. The dude has range, but to me, he's got some wiggle to him, and he can create offense for others too. He's a Division I player. I'm just going to come out and say it. I know there will be others that want to be doubters or haters and say, "Oh, well, this or that, the other." The kid can play. He's going to be a Division I basketball player, and I think a good point you bring up. He is playing up. Yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about Southern Ties. Southern Ties is a group that John Roby has flat out turned around from the first week of the season. Let's just call it what it is. The roster added some additions, most notably Cameron Paul. And if you look at Cameron Paul, to me, Shanku, you've seen a lot of him as well. He's what an NBA prototypical wing looks like. Again, he's got a lot to develop, as any high school kid does. But when you talk about a pro body, he's got the makeup of what that looks like. And he's got an impressive game. A lot to still keep working on, a lot to keep developing on, as is everybody. But I've been very impressed with his athleticism and the playmaking ability that he has on both sides of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron Paul at 6'6" as a wing, moves like a guard, super athletic, fluid mover. That's what really impressed me the most, the way he moves with the ball and without the ball, really. But lob threat, he can finish acrobatic finishes around the rim, really good core strength. For 6'6", is just really impressive to see, and it's no surprise that he doesn't crack the top 10 for the top 100 for the ESPN rankings.
Yeah, it comes in at 87 overall nationally, well-deserved, and I think that's just one of many that are going to play on this circuit. He wasn't ranked before, and all of a sudden he is ranked because he's performing and he's doing it against top-level guys. Most notably, I think you have to point to their win over to YGC, who had 2 players in the top 100 via ESPN and all the other rankings for that matter. In Caden Edwards and Chris Sinak. We'll get to the YGC in a minute. But before we do, we got to talk about Rhode Island Elite. They are a competitive, fiery team. Kelvin had an awesome weekend. I think you look at him, he's ranked 108th nationally in the 247 composite rankings. He's a talented wing. But I think when you look at his game, what I most noticed, And one of our coworkers, Kyle Unruh, pointed it out first. And I was like, yep, you are spot on. Kelvin is, yes, he's a dog, but he just does it. He just does it. He just plays defense. He doesn't press for shots. He takes the right shots when he's supposed to take them, whether that's an open three or that's driving to the basket. He's not a guy that forces a lot. And I think you see a lot of these guys that are ranked that maybe when they're not having their best game, they still force it. That's just not him. He lets the game comes to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that self-awareness is super key with Kelvin. His physicality, really at 6'5", really solid frame, good upper body strength. That physicality really helps him attack the rim with a lot of assertiveness and really bump players off their spots.
No doubt. Darius Slopes is another player that you've got to point out for Rhode Island Elite. They've got a lot of talent, so we're not going to get to all of them, but got to give him some love. He's a point guard that can score it. He's got a good layup pack, one of the best layup packages, I think, in the circuit, up there with a lot of other guys that are, can finish around the rim in a variety of ways. And I was very impressed with him. They're a tough physical team. That LaMelo Ball game where they played 1-of-1 LaMelo Ball, I was one of the lowest scoring games I've seen in a long time for AU basketball. And it was just straight up both teams playing unreal defense, led by Rhode Island Elite. All right, let's get to YGC 36. One of the talented squads we have, Marcus Smart's squad out of Dallas, Texas, where he's from. Chris Sinak, that's who you got to lead with. He's got a lot of upside as you look at his career. He is another prospect that when you look at him, he's got that pro-style body and frame and some explosiveness, as you see there from the film, can do just about anything. One of, if not the most explosive player in the league, Shanku.
Yeah, I mean, Chris is just such a special talent at 6'10". The way he moves with the ball, his ball handling skills are so advanced for 6'10", big. He can stretch the floor. He can score inside. He can bang you down low. I mean, defensively, he's awesome too. Rim protection, guarding on the perimeter a little bit too. I mean, he's just so fun to watch.
I mean, he's averaging a double-digit rebounds and double-digit points in every game this season. Whether that's on the Pro16 or somewhere else, that's what he's averaging. As you see there in that last shot, the man can shoot the ball too. And in this day and age, when you look at high-level college 4s and 5s, because I think that's what he is. I think he can play the 4. There's no doubt about it. He's versatile enough to do that. But I also think as a small ball 5, and you say small ball, I mean, he's 6'10", but as that versatile guy, he can be a mismatch, and you're seeing it both in college and in the pros at this point. Top 15 player in the country. He's only going to continue to rise, but he's got a partner too, we might add. Caden Edwards, who is, I think, one of the best scorers, not just in our league, but across the whole country, Shanku. Caden Edwards can flat out fill it up.
Yeah, I mean, Caden Edwards, he was so fun to watch. I watched him in Dallas a bunch. I mean, he's just so quick with the ball in his hands in the open court and in the half court, going to his left. I mean, you just can't stop him. You could try to avoid him going to his left, force him right, but that jab step is so lethal. He'll get left and he'll blow by you, and then he'll finish at the rim. But his off-the-dribble shooting from beyond the arc is, like you said, some of the best in the country, really.
And he can get his shot off like that.
So
I mean, if you're not guarding him, good luck. Yes, he can blow by you, but he can also shoot the ball really, really quickly. So looking forward to them matching up with a few of these teams. We'll get to some favorite matchups for the Pro 16, some that you might see in Memphis and Wichita here in a minute. BTI United is the other team that I think a lot of people point to. You have them as your favorite, rightfully so. They got 2 guys in the top 32 in the country, Xavier Stanton, who's number 22, and Nicholas Kamania, who is number 32. And I think both of those rankings will continue to rise across ESPN 247 on 3, all of those big-time rankings, rivals, the Big Four, as we like to call them. As people see these kids more and more, I think you're going to continue to see them rise. Xavier Stanton, that's where you got to start. Xavier is the best rim protector in the United States. And you might say beyond that, because just looking at the way he protects the rim, he's got such a high ceiling with the way he blocks shots. He played volleyball before this, and you can really see it. He just blocks shots, and sometimes with 2 hands, sometimes with 1 hand. He's versatile, but he's a problem. And the game you're watching here, filmed courtesy of Courtside Films, that's at a Made Hoops event where they're playing in this game, an EYBL team in Strive for Greatness. T. Bartlett's down there in the post a talented post player that's top 100 in the country. Xavion's giving him problems on both ends, but I have to start with the defense because I think the defense he has is at a very, very high level. The offense is still coming, Shanku, but when that happens, I mean, good luck to people. I mean, the young man, he's got, I don't know if there is a limit on what he has, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Well above 7 foot at this point as well, we might add.
Yeah, his ceiling is through the roof. Like you talked about, his rim protection, his timing, his ball tracking, his instincts really too, which is so special for 7'1", maybe 7 foot. But
he might be 7'2". I'm going to be honest. He might be 7'2".
We need a measuring tape in Memphis.
We might need to do it. We did do that though with his teammate in Walnut Creek. A really cool experience that I'll give a shout out to Coach Icart with BTI. He let me come along. We got to go to the Warriors practice facility and game. It's all there in one spot. He coached Coach Kerr's son. And I'll just, give a little story here for the show tonight. One of the coolest things is we pulled up and I'm thinking, okay, Shanku, we're going to have like a chauffeur, right? Like it's just going to be a chauffeur. Steve Kerr set it up. We did have a chauffeur. It was Steve Kerr himself. There was no one else in the building. Steve Kerr showed us around out there in Walnut Creek. It was a really cool experience. All 8 players for BTI United, 17 you were there, as well as myself, Coach Icart. We were just hanging out. Got to see all the Warriors practice facility, and then you just jet right over and go right into the Chase Center, which is incredible, newly built. I believe that's where the All-Star game is next year. Really cool, though. It was really, really cool. But in talking you through that, though, cool experience. We did we met Draymond, which for those that know me, big Oklahoma City fan. So he did say they would beat us in 5 games. Unfortunately for them, they didn't make it to the playoffs. But great team. We'll give them their kudos. It was really cool, though. Draymond was very gracious with his time. I think he talked to the kids for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And Draymond, I got to say, for everything everybody probably thinks he is, including myself, he was the complete opposite in person. The kindest dude, gave real advice, just down to earth, trying to help the 8 kids that were there that he did know from Adam, and he met 10 minutes before that. Wow. And he just started talking to them and let them ask questions, gave real advice. It was really, really cool. But in the meantime of that whole story, we got to bring up Nicholas Kamania because Nick was walking through, and in the Warriors practice facility, just between their locker room and their treatment place, Shanku, they have, what would you know? A measuring tape, and it's on the wall. So I said, hey, Nick, because I'd seen there were some people that put him at 6'6". There's been some people put him at 6'8". It's like, all right, we're going to end this debate. Come over here. Had him stand up to the wall. He is above 6'8" by just a hair. He's inching towards 6'9", but above 6'8". With shoes.
Okay.
Good. But hey, listen, it's like I always say, you play in shoes last time I checked.
Yeah, I agree.
And actually, you know what, Shanku? Nick would have to tell us, but I think he might have taken his shoes off.
Oh.
I could be wrong. We'd have to go back to the tape on that one. But what I can say is he measured above 6'8". Yeah. And as we roll the film on Nick, there's a reason he's top 32 in the country in the latest ESPN rankings. The young man is super, super skilled. He can do a lot of things with the ball. He played point guard for them primarily last year. The shot, as that continues to come more and more effective from 3, is just a problem because he's already got the mid-post game and the mid-range game. And then he can drive, the little guard down to the basket and score. Plus, we got to talk about his passing. He's one of the best passers in the league.
Yeah, I mean, his offensive game is just so polished, so refined for his age. He can do a little bit of everything. He can score off the dribble. He can create for others. But his defense, I think, has really taken a stride since last year. And I think that's what college coaches will see this summer.
No doubt about it in my mind. Nicholas Kamania, as well as Xavier, I might add, both teammates, they're going to be recruited by anybody and everybody, and wherever they want to go to school, they're going to have a chance to go there because that's how talented they are. I mean, you just see it. They're a tough shot maker. Nick can do it all. He can flat out do it all. And the pass, that right there is what I want to see more of. So I got to say one negative thing about BTI. Here's my one negative thing. And Shanku, we're going to see if they can figure it out. And this is my challenge to them. They were horrible at throwing lobs to Xavier April 12th to the 14th weekend in Walnut Creek. It was their first weekend playing together, though. They had never played together. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But it is on you, guards, wings, anybody who's in the game. If Xavier Staten is open, down low, find a way to get the man the ball and throw it on point. Now, I will say, I'm going to give you all a little credit after knocking you here. I've seen some film here lately, and they are apparently getting better because he's getting some lobs. I saw that at the Made Hoops event. I saw at the stage this past weekend where they beat Compton Magic. I saw that, there was a few lobs there as well. So they're getting better, but I want to see it, and it's my challenge. They need to be. You got to throw lobs. You got a 7-footer down there, man. Use them.
Yeah, I mean that 2-man game. It's got to be lethal. Like, how do you stop 6'8" point guard and 7'2" athletic big man?
You can't really stop that you can have with that. Oh my gosh.
And then Matt, I just want to give a quick shout out to Peyton White, who I think is a super versatile defender. I think he's another D1 kid who really sees a boost in his recruitment this year.
No, 100% he is. And also, when you see his game, you're going to see he's added the 3-point shot more effectively. But for Crespi, for his team in high school that he plays for out in LA, they have him playing a lot of the 5. Mm-hmm. And college coaches are going to love this kid because he will literally run through the brick wall for you. Yeah. He's going to do anything you need him to do. And it starts on defense, but he can block shots. He threw down some nasty jams, but the shot is coming along. And as that shot comes along, it's gonna go a long way. All right, let's talk about Elite out of Houston, Texas. I don't know if they're the biggest surprise to me of the season so far, but they're one of the bigger surprises because they're better than I thought they would be. And it starts with this guy right here. Film courtesy of Left Hoops. Shout out to them. They do a great job covering this team as well as many others down in Texas. But Tyrus, I should say, rather than Mays, Tyrus has a chance to really turn some heads this spring and summer. And I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Tyrus Ravin Mays will be a ranked prospect nationally very, very soon. Mark my words. He's got great size as a wing. He can shoot the ball really well. He's bulked up, though. I mean, he's got a really good frame, and I feel like he's put on some good weight, some good weight room weight. He's been in the weight room. Arizona State just recently offered, and you see here, Shanku, he can make tough shots, but he also can make the right play.
Yeah. I think that's what impressed me most in Dallas was his feel for the game at 6'6". He was really their primary ball handler, but just created for others at a high level, really leveraging his scoring gravity because obviously he draws so much defensive attention that other players can gain off of that, and he makes them pay for it.
Elite right now across their roster has 5 guys with Division I offers. One of those other guys, we're not going to mention all of them, but is Ian Inman. He's a guard that I also think Shanku has a chance to blow up with his shooting paralysis.
Yeah, I mean, at 6'4", 6'5", he can shoot the ball with the best of them. He's added a mid-range game as well, attacking closeouts with a 1-dribble pull-up, 2-dribble pull-up, even getting to the rim a little bit. And I think like you added for Tyrus, just his frame has added some strength, really much needed strength for Ian Inman, but that's taking his game to another level.
Evan Cochran, that's another guy. He's not getting quite the love some other guys are getting on the team, so I don't want them to think I'm skipping past them. But I wanted to mention Evan because he's an intriguing big, similar to their big man a year ago, who no one was recruiting, and then all of a sudden he ended up at Loyola Chicago. Funny how that works. He can play a little bit. Braden Young, that is. Evan Cochran, he's got a chance to be another guy that, again, not enough people are talking about him. And he's a role player for them, but he's a role player that I think will fit in down the line, and he's got the size that colleges, they're going to be excited to see.
Yeah. I mean, Cochran, his ceiling, like you said, as a big and kind of underrated at this point, but his ceiling is through the roof, and I'm definitely excited to see more from him as he continues to develop.
Let's talk about LaMelo Ball, both of his groups. You got to start with one LaMelo Ball, coached by Jermaine Jackson. They went 3-1 this past weekend in Indy in their first Pro16 play. Javonte Ware is a really talented, tough post prospect. He's got some upside, top 100 player. This team, they really played well together, had a good showing. They've got some talented guards. What I love about this team is the one LaMelo Ball group flat out guards you. They are going to get in and they are going to make you earn every point. And they play the right way. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. They're in the mix right now, Shanku, with all those other 3-1 teams, as is one Elite, LaMelo Ball's other team in the Pro16 17U. They're huge, full of size. Coach Nick, he's got that squad just like Jermaine does that competes. They flat out compete. They went 3-1. They've got a chance. If you look at our league right now, there are so many 3-1 teams. Spot 12 through 5 in the 17U Pro 16 is 3-1. And I think certain of those teams have played tougher schedules. Even if you look at the 4-0 teams, there's a few teams at 4-0 that have played easier schedules. The Memphis-Wichita weekends to match up those teams, it's going to be really, really fun to see.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Memphis is coming a little bit sooner than Wichita, but Wichita is obviously the biggest one given its live period. But I mean, just seeing some of these teams would have so much talent up and down the roster. I didn't get to see some of these teams in Indy, but I'm excited to see a lot of these, like you said, these two LaMelo Ball teams in particular.
Yeah, they're very, very tough, and I think have an extremely, extremely big upside. World-class Renegades. For a next program that has come up to the Pro 16, there's two this year. There's them, and there's West Virginia Gold. And I'll go ahead and just touch on West Virginia Gold real quick because it's not a pretty conversation right now. West Virginia Gold just didn't perform well this past weekend. And it doesn't mean that I don't believe that they can get better. I think they can. They showed us a year ago that they can compete. But I think you're seeing with them in particular, there's a difference between 16U and 17U. And right now, West Virginia Gold, they had great success at 16U, going all the way, making the deep run in the Pro 16 finals. They're going to have to really do some soul searching after this weekend. And Coach Dewan and Program Director Rodney and their crew, they're a great crew. And I have no doubt they're going to turn it around. But it just didn't look like the team with Diari Goodwin and Dame Givner that we're used to seeing. Part of it, Shanku, is they just didn't hit shots. And when you don't hit shots and you're a team like that, so it's tough to compete. They went 1-3. So this is my call out to them of, look, hey, they didn't have the best weekend, but I do still think they can turn it around and make a run. And if you're a team that went 1-3, you have to, and I mean have to, perform well in Memphis and Wichita. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in the play-in game. But that being said, World-class Renegades is a team that did perform. They were ready. And I think you have to start with Martin Koppenhanger, who is a really intriguing wing prospect. He was a big part of why they went 3-1 and can really shoot the three ball very well.
Yeah, Koppenhanger is a player I saw last year quite a bit. And he's literally the college perfect build for a wing. Really 3-and-D, but he's super athletic. He flies above the rim. He can attack the rim with good aggression. But that three-point shot has really improved, especially his off-the-dribble shooting. That's been his biggest development in his game over the past few months. But just, I think, would really fit in any offensive system in the country, which is why I like him so much as a prospect.
I think he's a guy that is definitely a Division I player. There's no doubt in my mind. And he's going to go somewhere, if I had to guess, again, and Martin, hey, again, take it as fuel if you would like. I mean this in the most complimentary way. He's going to go anywhere from low major to I could see him playing all the way in the Mountain West. If he has the right games in Wichita, Phoenix, and Indy in front of those coaches, I think he has the talent to shoot his way into the Mountain West. And the other part is he competes. Martin flat out competes. And I really think more and more schools are going to fall in love with his game when they start to watch him in the live periods. Nate Robinson's son's having a big spring. He really performed well. And I thought Robinson, not only has he improved, but again, he's got that motor. And that really describes this world-class team. They have motors on them. And of course, you can't say motor and you can't say world-class without mentioning the motor of the team, and that is Jeremiah Harshman, one of my favorite players to watch because he's always talking. And I'm not talking talking trash. He's talking on the court hey, screen here. He's letting his team know, and he is the vocal leader. He might be the best vocal leader in a decade of doing this business that I've ever heard on the court as a high school player, just with all the things he calls out. He's calling the defense, he's calling the offense. And if a guy, to say Martin or whoever on the team, isn't holding their weight, guess what? I mean, it's going up to him and saying, hey, get it together. Get it together. But Jeremiah Shanku, I think he's another Division I prospect on this world-class squad. And I really think coaches are going to love when they hear him talk on the floor.
Yeah, I talked to Jeremiah a little bit, and he's more interested in going the academic route, hopefully an Ivy League. So if you're an Ivy League school out there, I'm telling you right now, Jeremiah Harshman is the perfect pickup at the guard spot.
Get on that ASAP because smart young man, great young man, and he's going to represent your program in a manner that, quite frankly, you can lay your head on the pillow every night and say, yeah, he's my leader of my team. He's going to make sure we're, rocking and rolling. But He's also a really good basketball player too. So we don't want to miss that as well. Let's talk about One Family, the defending 17U champs. I'm going to give them some fuel here, Shanku.
Okay.
I'm going to give them some fuel.
Love it.
They have a long way to go if they want to be a top 5 team in this league this year. I'm not talking about the top spot. I'm talking about just the top 5. They have a long way to go. Now, it starts with Miles Mayfield, who we know from a year ago, as well as some of these other prospects on the team. I think you have to start with him. He's got a lot of talent. And you've seen Miles, and obviously he's a Division I guy. How high? Is he a high major kid? Is he mid-major? Unknown yet, but he's definitely an intriguing prospect for One Family.
Yeah, I think One Family, I think it's interesting because I think Daryl Harden and Lee Loper, they're going to bring in some guys because I know they might not be able to compete right now with their current roster, but
no, I think they have. That's what I was going to – you're still in my point here.
Okay.
I've been told they made an addition.
Okay.
And I've been told the addition – this is what was described to me. It was described to me that he is going to give him an impact like Isaiah Brown did a year ago.
Ooh, man,
that's what I was told. And what I'll say is, if he does provide anything close to what Isaiah Brown was, then they might just be in that top 5. They might be back where they belong. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
That's good insight to know.
Yeah, we'll see. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We'll see what they – and the other thing I'll say is all the Atlanta teams played the first week of the season. So they're, in my opinion, kind of at a disadvantage. Now, they all played each other. So, I mean, sure, they're a disadvantage, but they played. But Team Scoot and One Family, I mean, that was the first week of the season. So we'll see how they perform. Now they've had some practices and, some additions, and roster additions always help when it's talent.
Yeah,
so
sure.
AO Flight, that's who's next. Aiden Chronister, that's their top prospect, ranked in the top 30 in the country. He's playing up in age, and I think there's been an adjustment period, but give Aiden credit. He's adjusted pretty fast, Shanku.
Yeah, I mean, in the class of 2026, he's a 6'7" wing, but he's, I think, maybe the best shooting prospect, one of the best shooting prospects in the country, I'll say, regardless of class. I mean, the way he can shoot off the move is so special at 6'7". I mean, impeccable shooting mechanics, just great base, consistent ball path, high release, quick release. I mean, he can get a shot off over anyone at 6'7". He's just so fun to watch, Matt.
Still growing. And I'm not talking just height-wise. He's still growing physically, but he's also still growing in his game. And he had a big time. The film you're seeing there is from the circuit. He had a big time weekend there. In St. Louis, first couple of games, he didn't shoot the ball super well. But what I love the most about St. Louis, and I think this shows a lot of growth in a player, is when you're struggling, can you pull yourself out of it? And in the 4th game that weekend, when he hadn't played his best the previous 3, he didn't just ball out, he killed that game. That to me shows a level of maturity that not a lot of 16U players would have playing up in age at 17U. I mean, we're in the day and age where, let's just call it what it is. There's a lot of players that just play 16U. Cooper Flagg, he played 16U. Like, he's a great player.
Yeah.
He's an unbelievable player, number 1 player in the country, but he played 16U. Anytime a kid is willing to play up in age, to me, that speaks a lot of volume. And with that, there's going to be some progression that has to take place. I thought in St. Louis, we saw some of that right before our eyes, where he didn't have his best performances the first 3, but he found a way to be great in that last game when it counted and when his team needed him the most. AO, similar to One Family, a long way to go to be considered a top 5 team in the league this year. Memphis and Wichita are going to tell a lot of their story. I would like to see the half-court offense continue to grow with Aiden. I thought maybe they relied a little bit too much on they're such a good defensive team, and they can get out in transition. That's obviously where they're at their best, but getting a 6'7" shooter open that can really shoot the ball helps too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've got a guard in Christian Gillian, who's another D1 kid. I mean, he's so explosive. That first step is explosive. Elite.
What did he have? Step. He had the number 1 play, right, that week.
That jam was nasty. That was disgusting.
That was really nice. Really nice. For those that didn't see it, you'll have to watch the top 10 from, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, St. Louis.
Incredible, though. It was box office. But I think the AO team has a lot of prospects that are going to continue to get better and better and better the more they play together. And Coach Deshaun is going to, he's going to get better as a coach too. I thought he did all last year. That's why they made such a deep run in the 16U. Let's talk about a team that they played, MPJ Elite. PJ Farmer, Ja'Cory Robinson, that's really, I think, their duo. They've got some other prospects as well there.
Yeah, I mean, Ja'Cory Robinson's so fun to watch. At 6'5", he's one of their primary ball handlers along with PJ Farmer, like you mentioned. But the way he moves and the way he sees the floor at 6'5", he's an easily, I think, a high major prospect in my opinion. I think the motor might need some work. I think his effort at times was a little low in St. Louis when I saw him, but he was, I mean, his stat line for the high school season, like 24, 15, 6, 4, and 3, just box office numbers, but he's a player to watch for sure going forward.
No doubt. All right. Listen, we're towards the bottom of the list of the Pro16 standings. So this is my PSA service note. Again, you can take what we're saying as motivation, but the next several teams, I'm going to end with the positive team, but I got to, unfortunately, talk about some negatives as well. Grand Park Premier. They took it on the chin with TLBA. I thought that they quit in some ways in the game. I thought their effort level really shrunk as the lead got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the deficit for them was just too much. I'm excited to see how they respond in Memphis, but I think they have a long way to go. And I could see them being a team. If I had to predict it right now, I think they're in the play-in tournament, which they would be as of now. That's where I kind of see just them. But I think with coaching and, hitting shots is a big thing for them too. They're a team. We have certain teams that really rely on the three-point shot. They're going to be one of them. They do have some talent, so I don't want to come off mistaken that they don't have talent. I think they have several Division I players, but they didn't show their best in Indianapolis at home this weekend. And, they're going to need some better showings in Memphis and Wichita. Nebraska Supreme. Competition level, to me, was a little fast for them in St. Louis. I think some of those prospects hadn't played up to that level just yet. But I think they are doable. I think it's possible for them to get out of this plan. But again, if I had to predict it today, like they're probably in, right? However, I think it's possible because you got Zarek Houston and you got Amir Martin. Those two prospects are going to have to really step it up and carry this team. Both of them could be Division I players. Amir has 2 Division I offers. Zarek, none yet. But I think he could get to that level because he's talented. He had a game winner in one of their games. What do you think about Nebraska Supreme from what you saw in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think they were the only team that beat AO Flight, if I'm not mistaken, that weekend. But they've got another dude, like you mentioned, was Zarek Houston. But Barrett Bosager, who is super intriguing to me, 5'8" guard, but he might be the best shooter on our circuit. I'm not going to lie, Matt. He was so fun to watch.
Strong words, folks.
He's 5'8". Usually undersized guards are not typically elite shooters, but this guy is elite. I mean, moving off screens, flying off screens, just incredible footwork. But he was so fun to watch. He shoots the ball at a super high clip too. Just so fun to watch.
Team Scoot, similar to One Family. I'm going to give them a pass. And here's why they get the pass. They get the pass because it was so early in the season. And I think they're going to be a much better team when we see them in Memphis with everything that they do. I think they'll surprise some people with how well they play in Memphis. But we're going to see. They got to go earn it. If they come out in Memphis and go 1-3 and Wichita and go 1-3, well then, that's an issue. But I'm going to give them a pass. It was the first week of the season, March, 29th through the 31st. Yeah. So they've come a long way since then. And I think May 10th in Memphis, when they show up, they'll be a different squad. I told you I'd finish on some positives. So here's my 2 positives. First and foremost, SA Future. I was shell-shocked when I saw these standings just because I knew they went 1-3, but still I expected them to be a top 5 team in the league at 17U. I did. However, when you're not just playmaker, but when your engine, your point guard is out, it changes a team completely. And we're not talking about any point guard here. We're talking about Kingston Flemings, a top 25 prospect in the country, arguably, in my opinion, the best point guard in the country. So when you're missing the best point guard in the country on your team, it does a lot to your team. It impacts a lot. That being said, I am excited to see him come back. Hopefully he comes back in Memphis. I know he will be definitely back by Wichita from the last report I got, but Memphis was a possibility. That would be huge for them because, Shanku, if you think about it, their schedule is going to be tough both those weekends because they still haven't played some of the better teams. That being said, I mean, they have to win to get out of this. I don't think it matters as much to them. They don't need to be in the top 5 in the standings. I mean, they can still they can finish well, but they don't want to be in the play-in. You do not want to be in the play-in. So they got to get above 15, which again, very doable. One of the bright spots that I thought that, obviously it's never good when a player's hurt, but Zachariah Linson has absolutely stepped up. And there was an article out, several articles on nextprohoops.com from us, but also from Brandon Jenkins with 247 Sports. He wrote about him. I felt like he stepped up in the absence of Flemings and really helped them. And I think that's going to help them a ton when they get Kingston back. Because now I think Zachariah has a little bit of a different swagger, different confidence to them. And that's a big step for him.
Yeah. Zachariah, he didn't have his best weekend in Dallas, but Camden Cowgill is a player who really stuck on my radar as kind of like a secondary playmaker. He'll be a great fit next to Kingston, one of the better shooters that I saw in Dallas. Also, the secondary playmaking, like I mentioned, just really good vision, ambitious passing, just processing speed. And then he's got the size too at 6'3", 6'4", to really play at the next level.
Yeah, he was next on my list to talk about. I mean, Cam is a really, really, really talented shooter. But to that point, Cam, Zachariah, they're used to the best setup man in the country at point guard in Kingston, who, yes, Kingston can really score it. He's very talented at scoring. He's very talented on defense. But Kingston is so talented at passing the ball and helping his teammates. And quite frankly, it makes his teammates look really good. They make shots. It's easier to make shots when you're getting the ball in that pocket that you're used to, in rhythm, all those things. So I just think they've been just a little bit out of rhythm. They're still competing, though, which I do love. But a 1-3 weekend in Dallas at the regional there, so they're going to need to step it up in Memphis and Wichita. Last but not least, let's talk about CPSA. CPSA returns one of the more talented prospects in the league a year ago. He remains in that same boat. He's a top 60 prospect in the 2026 class. That is Joe the Man Sterling. Joe can flat out get a bucket, and you're going to see it all throughout here. How about a Joe Sterling, Eli Ellis matchup at some point? I mean, that would be fun. But Joe makes some really tough pro-level type shots with the fadeaway shots that he takes, and just in traffic, he just creates so much. He is this team, though. They've got a lot of other prospects that are intriguing, but I think they can only go as far as Joe can carry them to some level, and the other prospects have to fill in the gaps and be able to, be those elite role players and, get 10 to 15 when they can. But Joe's got to be 20 game a night. He's got to have 20 a night.
Yeah, I talked about Joe last year, and I called him one of the best scoring prospects I've ever evaluated in my career as a scout. But, I mean, his ability to put the ball in the hoop is second to none, really. He was among the top 10, I think. Synergy came out with a efficiency rankings for high school players, he was among the top 10, and he was the only sophomore on that list, along with 9 seniors, and he was one of the higher volume shooters as well, which speaks volumes about his game.
No doubt about it. All right, we've talked a lot about Pro 16. If you can't tell, we're very excited. The next programs are having opportunities to play the Pro 16 as well. This week, I will say, was a week where the next teams did not perform as well against the Pro 16 as far as at 17U. At 15U and 16U, there were some wins, but at 17U, you saw, I think there was a very clear divide line there. That being said, I already gave them some love. Team Spates, they were the team. They took Team Museum down to the wire. Speaking of Team Museum, we'll flip the script, talk about Indy, some teams that went 4-0 in Indianapolis. Team Museum, to me, Shanku, with what they were able to do, we all knew about Eric coming in, and he's super talented 7-footer. But their guards, I mean, they really have some playmakers, and that stood out along their way to a 4-0 weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to watch them too much, but that Eric Iba film I was able to get my eye on, it really popped off to me. And I like the way they competed in the slight film I did get to see. like you mentioned, they just play hard. They play a good brand of basketball, a winning brand of basketball at that.
Chapman basketball came into the weekend. They were in the standings at 45, and they had a big weekend.
Yeah, they were 6-2 coming in. They led Pool C going 4-0. They had a pretty comfortable weekend, winning all their games by 10-plus points. So they took care of business, but I'm excited to see what they do in higher group play.
Listen, when you look at Phoenix, and we're going to talk about Phoenix and Indianapolis, the Pro 16 finals, a lot later in the show, we're really going to lay out for you what we think you need to do to be able to make it from the next standpoint, just like we did in the Pro 16 in the last segment there. They're inching closer. They're inching closer. They're far from it still. But if you look at it, 10-2 is a really good record. They need another strong week to finish well. Run as One was another group. They came in at 65 in the standings, and I was very impressed with the fact that they were able to run the table.
Yeah, I mean, they had a really gritty win to open the weekend over CBA South. They came out on top 78-76. Apart from that, it was pretty smooth sailing for them, and I'm excited to see how they do in the higher group play as well.
Pack, we're going to talk about them a lot, whether it's 17, 16s, 15s. Pack has been balling out, and we had them on the show last week. I think you've got to give them a lot of credit for what Liam and his group have done. Saw them several times out in Indy, including a late-night trip to Subway. They're good. They're really good at all ages. And for this group, they came in the weekend at 24 in the standings. And to rise with the way they did to go 4-0, I mean, it's going to help them. Again, no team is anywhere close to clinching their spot, but Pack is starting to put themselves in position.
Yeah, I brought Coach Liam on last week after they went 11-1. I didn't think they could top it, but they went 12-0 as a program this weekend. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But just a few guys on their 17U group. Jalen Watson, who had that number 9 play on the top 10, 5'8" guard, hyper athletic, had that 360 dunk in the game. I mean, that's just so impressive for a 5'8" guard, along with London Burton in the backcourt sharing the floor with him. Another 6'2", I think, hyper athletic guard who plays above the rim, but his jump shooting has really taken strides, which will impress college coaches for sure.
And we have to talk about the big fella.
JJ Lee.
JJ Lee is a massive human.
He's a matchup problem.
No one's guarding this man down low. Like, I just got to be honest. No one's guarding. Well, I say that. Look, I mean, in the Pro 16, you got Eric, you got Xavier, you got Chris Sinak. Those type of guys can guard him. That's it. In the next, I don't know how many 7-footers there are, but there's not very many. And he's approaching that area, but he's also just, I mean, he's strong. He is really, really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited to see his game. He's just started to play basketball here recently. Yeah. I think the sky is the limit for a kid like that. Let's talk about Red Rush. Came into the weekend 30th overall, and they were dominant until that last game.
Yeah, they had a tough competitive game against CBA South, who went 2-2 on the weekend, but they had 2 competitive games, 2 tough losses. But Red Rush, like you mentioned, they pulled it out for a perfect 4-0 weekend.
A team that struggled in their opening weekend, and this is the part of all of our algorithms. Ethan Piotto will come on later in the show, who is the man behind that. He's done a great job with it, and it really does balance the scales. But Big Three, they struggled. They came into the weekend at 158.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not a pull-up team.
Right. They performed, though, right? I mean, they didn't perform the first week, but they performed this weekend.
Yeah, they made up for the lack of showing, I guess you could say, in their opening weekend, but they were dominant, and they'll definitely move up the rankings quite a bit after this weekend.
I would expect that. Top Notch Stars West, also similar to Big Three, came into the weekend at 152 in the standings. For those that don't know, yes, the 16 matters, but also the 150 matters, because the next finals, it's the top 150 teams in each age. And then you've got the next invitational that is currently where the Top Notch Stars, as well as Big Three coming into this weekend, would have been. That's 151 and beyond. So I think with the Top Notch Stars, similar to Big Three, you kind of had to have a good weekend after the weekend they had before.
Yeah, they took care of business. They did what they had to do. They faced who was in front of them. You can't really ask much of them, but they'll move up, and I'd like to see how they do against some better competition going forward.
Flipping the page over to 16U in Indianapolis, Pack. Oh, what do you know? Liam, we're talking about you again. I'm telling you, like you said, they went 12-0 on the weekend. But speaking of 12-0, tell us what this team has done.
Yeah, this 16U group is really different. They've gone 12-0, haven't lost a game yet. They've beaten 3 Pro 16 teams, including 2 this past weekend, and then MPJ Elite in St. Louis last weekend. But, I mean, they've been so impressive. They play so well as a cohesive unit. Great team basketball. They've got multiple dudes. They've spaced the floor so well. They've got a lot of high-level prospects as well. So I'm excited to see. I think they might be my early pick to win it all, at least in Omaha and in Nebraska. But even in the Pro 16, I think they could give some teams some trouble in Phoenix.
I'll say this. There's some Pro 16 teams that have already lost to them that they sure do not want to see them again.
Sure.
Pack basketball is, again, they also have not clinched their spot for Phoenix. They're 2 wins away.
Yeah.
2 wins away from guaranteeing that top 16 spot. So Liam, 2 away. See if they can get it done. But
they're this weekend, so
they're knocking on the door. They're knocking on it. We'll see if they're able to punch down the door this weekend. West Virginia Gold, Pro 16. They struggled as a program this weekend, but this team did not struggle. This team was very, very good, and they've got some guys.
Yeah, they were pretty dominant because they've got some high-level prospects, but their opening game, they set the tone going forward for the whole season, winning by 51 points over a Pro 16 team. I mean, that was a dominant game, and it kind of setting the tone. 51, 80-29.
51.
I mean,
that's disrespectful.
Come on.
Disrespectful.
Holding a high-level team at 29 points, that alone says a lot about the team. But
and then scoring a lot. It wasn't like they just like slowed the game down.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy. Crazy. Grind Family Chicago. We talked with our man Ronald Thomas earlier. Connection issues got the best of us, but his team did go 4-0, and I think they're going to make a big jump. 2 Pro 16 wins. They came in 44th. That says a lot about where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about that. The 2 Pro 16 wins is huge for the program. They pulled out a huge win in overtime, I believe. It was a crazy half-court game winner, but that went viral on Twitter, I believe. But
yes, it did. Yes,
yeah.
it did. Chapman Basketball Gold Elite is a squad that I think when you look at them, they came in at 79, and they're another squad that really helped themselves this weekend.
Yeah, they came in at 79, but I'm sure that'll change very soon. They had a really good win against Michigan Hurricanes, who had a great weekend themselves. And they took care of business, really, just going 4-0. Most of their wins coming by 10-plus points, too.
All right, we got to keep it moving, so I want to give everybody their love. But CBA North, Chi-Town Bulldogs, Greater Purpose White, and Team Stark Edwards all went 4-0 as well in Indianapolis. I'll give a quick shout out a little further to Team Stark Edwards. They won by 20 plus. 20 plus. All right, we got to flip it to 15U. We can't be here all night. We can be here a lot, but not all night. 15U, Toronto Select. They came in ranked 5. And if anything, to me, Shanku, this is one of those teams similar to Pack 16U. They've solidified themselves. They are here. They are here. And I got to give them a lot of love. And I may upset some people with this, but Canadian teams have not done well in our league. They've been killed. They have not played well at all. This is a team that goes against that and shows we all know Canada has a ton of talent. And I think a lot of it is the speed of the game is so much different, and it's played so different in the United States at times. But this is a group that, quite frankly, they're schooling everybody.
Yeah, I mean, they've dominated right now. They're undefeated in their debut weekend, going 12-0 really so far. And they beat every team this weekend by 16-plus points, including 2 Pro 16 teams. And I think they're one of the favorites to win it all in Phoenix. I think they have a chance to win the Pro 16 finals in the 15U age division, along just as being a next team. But they'll see a jump in the standings this week for sure.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Young Hustle Black. They came in the weekend, again, a team that needed something, and they got a big win against a top 10 program.
Yeah, Road to Greatness is a great program. They're ranked number 9 coming into this weekend, and they beat them by 9. Apart from that, it was pretty smooth sailing. They took care of business. I'm expecting a big jump from them in the standings, coming from 25 heading into this past weekend.
Pack, again, third time we've mentioned them because, like you said, they went 12-0 as a program this weekend. So another 4-0 group for them was there's 15U. They came in at 18, and I thought they had to grind out some wins, but they found a way.
Yeah, they came in at 18. I was surprised by that last week, but in that last game against Clarksville Crossovers Platinum, who is a really good team who should be in the top 16, they beat them in overtime. Colton Nichols, who I broke down his game last week, was another standout for them.
Handles, I always wonder how we say this.
I think it's handles X buckets.
I think it's handles times buckets.
Is it?
That's what I think it is. I mean, hey, let us know in the chat. Is it handles times buckets or is it handles X buckets? Zen, help us out. We need some help.
He's in there.
Maybe Zen doesn't even know.
Maybe
Honestly, he might not know, but we'll talk about him. Zen, I expect a comment in the chat. Is it handles times buckets or handles X buckets? But debut weekend, they won all their games. And I might say, I think they got the best jerseys, one of the best in the league, if not the best. They got a pretty clean jersey set. Very different design.
That's a bold prediction. Or that's a bold take, I should say. But yeah, they took our business.
Handles and buckets. All right.
And wow, we're both wrong.
Well, dang. Zen, thank you. Thank you, Zen.
Thank you,
We're glad that we'll at least be a little smarter. I learned something today.
We will be smarter.
They do have some awesome unis, though. You'll have to check those out, Shanku. Greater Purpose is our last team in 15U that went 4-0 in Indianapolis. They were at 127 in the standings, and they won by double digits in every single game.
Yeah, they were in a lower pool. They were in Pool E, so they're kind of in that rough spot where they don't have a big sample size yet to kind of give them a rough estimate for the standings. But after this week, they should be more fairly placed.
Looking at that for Indianapolis, look, there's a lot of teams we can't get to, but those are the teams that went 4-0. We talked a lot about the Pro16 teams. I'm trying to think through here if there's anybody that comes to mind as my mind is racing that I don't want to miss. And we're going to move to Fort Collins. Okay. So, okay, hold on. We got a challenger. I will say I have not seen these uniforms in person, but if Delaware certified hoopers who had a great weekend in Rocky Mount, I was told.
Yeah.
I haven't seen their jerseys yet in person, but I did see a photo of them, and they're up there. We're going to have to do that on the show some week. Corbin will be back in the seat.
We need a top 10 jerseys.
And we're going to have to pick we need to do we'd have to do like 16, and then we'll do a bracket. And then we can let the people vote. That's a good idea. But we got to pick the top 16. There's some really good ones. There's also some bad ones. Some people, that, hey, could have done better, but that's okay. But for the most part, I would say most people did really, really well. Yeah. Speaking of good uniforms, Fort Collins. Let's switch over to there. Our man Corbin was out there. Aiden Wheelock was out there. Shout out to Aiden. He's the one that is posting all over social media along with John Hoyer, who's running the 1s and 2s for us here on the show. Prominent Elite. They've got some good-looking jerseys out of Vegas, and they've got some talent. They went 4-0 this weekend. Yeah,
Mason Abedin is a really high-level hooper for them. He's got offers from Radford, among many others. He's easily a mid-major kid, 6'6", wing, super athletic, likes to attack the rim. But they've taken care of business, and they were a fun team to watch last year, and I'm excited to see them again this year.
Team Utah, another team that had a very good weekend. I was very excited to see if they could hold up there into the bargain because a lot of times, and let's just call it what it is, everybody says like, oh, we're so good. We did this. We did that. They backed it up. They've done really, really well this season, and it was cool to see them continue their success out in Fort Collins. Factory, they're a team that got destroyed the first weekend. They really did not have a good weekend in Walnut Creek. I'll say that was just an early tournament for them. It was just an early tournament and wasn't their best weekend. For how they played in Walnut Creek, it was the complete opposite in Fort Collins. Uriah, who's their lead guard, balled out. I mean, I've seen the film. He was incredible. Did a great job of mixing his scoring, but also with some good, facilitator vibes, especially in the pick and roll. I thought Uriah and Factory looked like a whole different team this weekend. So give credit to Kenny Mullins, their coach, as well as, all the players, obviously, who went out there and played really well.
Yeah. I mean, that Uriah Tennant kid, he's really special. He was a Gatorade Player of the Year down in Arizona, I believe. And that says enough about him. He can go. And he struggled week 1, but seems like he's found his groove in week 2.
Oregon Prospects is another prospect. They've got prospects. That's why they're named the Prospects, right? Really a great blend of a team. I was able to see them out in Walnut Creek. They are very well coached. They really mix it up on defense, kind of junk up the game at times in a good way and do what they've got to do with the 2-3 zone at times, but they also, switch and they do a number of things, just depending on what they need to do for defensive success. And then offensively, I feel like Shanku, they can get hot. And when they're hot, they're tough to beat.
Yeah, I haven't seen them yet, but I've heard good things about their coaching staff. And they run some good stuff on offense, which I love to see personally.
Mudville Elite, they were a team that really stood out. Shanku.
Yeah, they had a great week. They took care of business in a major way. No win was closer than 13 points for them, and they even crushed a solid Bree Ballers team by 42 points. So talk about dominance. 42 points.
Bree Ballers is good. Like they're a solid club.
For sure, yeah.
But 42, man, that's tough. That's tough. Team Utah had, by the way, not one team, but 2 teams go undefeated, both the Black and the Red Squad. No close games for the Red Squad. Not only did they run the table, but they won with an average win margin of 21. That's crazy.
Dominance.
That's absolutely crazy. Yeah, that's nuts. Can't go without mentioning the other 2 17U programs out there that went undefeated. BYC Elite and Apex, our guys in Tucson. They also found a way to go to undefeated. In 16U and 15U, it was a little slimmer. Wasn't as many teams that went undefeated. A lot of competition. Give Kenny, again, his flowers. Factory went 4-0. It was a big weekend for them. BYC, Team Utah, Colorado Collective. A lot of teams that we're used to seeing. Collective, hey, I was a little surprised to not see them on the 4-0 list at 17U. They've got a good 17U squad.
Their Murphy team, were they in Fort Collins?
I believe so. I believe so. But
surprised they lost.
They did not. Yeah. That's the way it goes sometimes. Always competition. Spokane Elite Blue and Spokane Elite Black. And actually, yes, I can tell you that they definitely were in the tournament, by the way, Murphy, 17U for Colorado Collective, because they lost to Factory by 3.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So Factory, I'm telling you, Factory came with it, man. Came with it.
Because they struggled that opening weekend at Walnut Creek, so that was questionable, but
it's all about how you keep going. If you have a tough weekend, just keep on going.
Right.
15U, it was Colorado Collective, again, going undefeated, and BYC Elite, again, going undefeated, and with their New Mexico squad. So shout out to all those programs out in Fort Collins. Shout out to our good co-working partner, Corban, who is sick, down for the count. So we had to run through those for him. But it was cool to see the success. Without further ado, let's bring on the man of the hour, the man that people will undoubtedly be breaking their TVs and yelling at some point if they miss the Pro 16 finals by just a little bit. But have no fear. It's not a rigged thing. Ethan Piotto joins the show, and he will be the first one to tell you it's not a rigged thing. It is an algorithm. He literally presses the buttons, and the computers are the ones that put in the input, just like the BCS back in the day. The BCS with college football way back.
Yep, that's the way to do it. I mean, there's no way physically for us to be able to go around and watch everybody. So, yeah, it's but right now we mentioned it. You guys mentioned it. We're rounding into form. I think I'm going to say this because I'm not going to comment on the standings after this, but May is the month of separation. That's going to be my motto and slogan for this entire month. This is how you separate yourself. And I will say too, before I get to breaking down Rocky Mount, Team Ish has the 15U to be clear, has asked me to come on and let everybody know that they've actually, again, only halfway through the season, but they're 8-0. They've already booked their flights to Arizona for the Pro16 League.
Wow. That's bold. It's bold. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And by the way, I mean, Ish Smith coaching the team. Like, he's around the team. I love that. Love that. It's great for the kids.
That's awesome.
So, well, let's get to Rocky Mount before we get to standings, and we'll start there with the 17U. Cap City Scrappers, they came into the weekend on the standings at 52, and were able to go 4-0, Ethan.
Yeah. really, really solid squad. They were competitive last year too. One of the 17U teams that made the Pro16 finals in Houston with us in our first year. And they have a couple of pieces from that team that are returning, but also a number of new faces as well. They got a pretty good draw of pools. They came into the weekend 3-1, finished 4-0, and currently hold a 7-1 record just on the outside looking in of that top 16. So definitely an intriguing squad to follow, and those guys have done a really, really solid job, and we'll be tracking them for the rest of the spring.
Full standings will come out. Ethan just gave you a preview there. So if you're a Cap City fan, you're at 18, which means you didn't make Phoenix yet. So you got to keep working. Team KST came into the weekend at 23 in the standings, and they were able to have a big weekend.
Yeah, they, honestly, after the first weekend, their guy, Ron White, KST's from South Carolina. It actually stands for Kim's Son Training, if anybody is in the acronym behind it. I'd have to ask Ron why that is. But Tristan Carrington for them was phenomenal all weekend. He's about a 6'2", 6'3" wing. And I think the biggest thing he did all weekend was show that he can shoot the ball at a super high clip. Super big body guy, dual sport athlete, plays football. I believe he plays defensive end. But he was bodying guys off his path the entire weekend, getting to the rim, finishing through contact, finishing through traffic. And really they have about 7 to 8 guys on that team that they can insert and play in just about any role. They're going to pressure the ball the full length of the court and get after you. And they're proving that they are a legit contender in the 17U division for our next teams.
That's awesome. Talk about South Georgia. They've got a dude in Jarvis Wright, who's a high-impact guard, and they were really dominant as a team. Their closest game was just 19 points. Talk about what you like from him on the floor.
Yeah, South Georgia Elite, we were excited about them going into the year. They're actually fully they're under the umbrella of former NBA player and current overseas star Jordan McRae, who's with the Cleveland Cavaliers and went to the University of Tennessee. But they started off their first 2 sessions going 5-3 and kind of dropped a little bit in the standings. But this was a huge bounce back week for them. I say it all the time, but sometimes, old saying, minor setback for a major comeback, and you go 5-3, you drop a little bit momentarily in those rankings. But if you show that, hey, you're not supposed to be here, they're going to make it very clear. They won by an average of 19 points. Shanku, you mentioned him. Jarvis Wright, they're one of their lead guards is he's been one of the highest impact players on our circuit the entire year. Can really shoot it from beyond the arc. He's as solid as they come. You know what you're going to get from him on both ends of the floor every single game. 2026, 6'7" Chris Perry playing up in age for them too. Probably one of the better prospects that we have in next. And he's shown that time and time again this year. But they've got a collection of guys that play super hard under Coach Rico Wigfall, and they're in a really good spot now, 9-3 heading into I believe their last event of the spring. So they've got some work to do. They're probably going to need some help from potentially some other teams, but they've got to handle their own business first. So
absolutely. And talk about One Family. I know they were kind of had some questions coming in as the next team, but they were fairly dominant. 14 points was their closest game. Talk about guard TJ Hall, 6'3", got some good guys to him.
Yeah, he was one of the standouts of the weekend for sure. He can score on all 3 levels, super quick off the dribble, but he's also got a good frame. He's about 6'3" and pretty strong, but really solid decision maker and efficient with his scoring on multiple levels. He's a guy that might be able to help their actual Pro16 17U team down the line. I'm going to let Lee and Daryl make the call on that. But he showed out big time. He was really solid for his group all weekend, and they proved it on pretty much every single age level. One Family they've been talking about it, but they're more than just a team. They're now a program. And it was an impressive outing from them in Rocky Mount.
Brick Squad Monopoly, that's a squad that we saw together in Atlanta. Waka Flocka himself was in the house, although I'm still upset. I left on Saturday night to go to the Oklahoma City event, and he showed up on right after I left, but that's all right. Hopefully we can check their team out and see him again in the near future. They struggled in their first event, but not this weekend. They had a little different story.
Yeah, they got some pieces back. And Jordan Vick, East Carolina commit, guard for them. Man, he was phenomenal all weekend. Really, really, really solid outing from Jordan Vick and that whole team. You can tell they're benefiting from getting their guys back, and Coach James Black is super excited about what they could look like moving forward for the rest of the year. So started off 0-4, and now head to their next event at 4-4, putting themselves in a pretty good spot.
Big time bounce back spot there for them. That is always key. Strictly Ballers. They are a squad that it's time to start paying attention to.
Yeah, not a fluke. They are real, and they are going to let you know about it. Definitely a frustrating team to play against. They are going to get in your face and teeter on the line of being almost a little bit excessive, but I like what they bring to the table. They go probably 1 through 8 of really highly competitive guys. Brandon Solomon, their coach, is doing a really, really solid job. They got some size in the middle, but they've also got some lead guard play that's going to lead them probably pretty deep into the season. I mean, they're positioning themselves in a really good spot about halfway through, 8-0. But they are in Bryan, Texas this weekend. So they're coming to a bit of a different region. They're playing some of our top next Texas teams. So we'll see how they go.
All right, so here's what I just heard. Strictly Ballers, Ethan says you're going to struggle this weekend. So there's your motivation for the weekend. It is cool, though. I think that's one of the coolest parts of our circuit is you see teams come from all over. I mean, this weekend I heard a team speaking French on the court. They weren't speaking English. It was like, oh, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay, all right, cool. There's just so many different contrasting styles, though. Like from the Southeast to the West Coast, it's a completely different game. The Midwest plays different than the South. It's all different, so it's fun to see when those styles clash. Speaking of South, the South Florida Kings.
Yeah, South Florida Kings, another really solid squad, and again went 1-3 in their first weekend in Atlanta. They actually had some card trouble on the way up, but made it just in time for their 9 p.m. game. The 17U squad did, and they went 4-0. They had a lot of very easily handled victories this weekend, including their last one on Sunday, which was by an absurd margin. But they've got some solid pieces. Eddie Prian, one of their wings, has stood out to me for now 2 weeks as a guy that can shoot it and is super athletic. And they'll be one to watch. They're turning the corner now, 5-3, and look to be in a better spot than they were originally.
Yeah, moving forward to the 16U age division, a couple teams like Hill City Crash, River City Hoops, One Family, they all went 4-0. Virginia Pride Elite, this was their debut weekend. They were in a lower pool, but they won by an average of 23 points. Talk about Cole Forbridge, their point guard, their full floor general.
Yeah, Cole Forbridge was really good for them, man. He's a tough guy. He's a bit undersized. Probably I listed him 5'9", but he's probably closer to 5'8" or maybe 5'7". But he's tough, and he's going to get into the paint with 2 feet. He's going to be able to shoot it. Got a bit of an unorthodox shooting mechanic repertoire that he goes through, but definitely fun to watch him play. Adam Purdue for them was also a wing that was really, really solid. He averaged over 20 points per game this weekend in Rocky Mount. But they were in the lowest pool in Rocky Mount. Virginia Pride was, but they came in, won all 4 of their games by a solid margin. And so that's what's so great about our league. They're not going to bounce up and prove to everyone that hopefully they can stay where they are.
Yeah. Shout out to Norcross Heat as well. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead.
No, shout out to Norcross Heat. They were in Pool E. They won by 15 points or more in all 4 games. They were ranked 166 coming in, so expect a big jump from them.
Moving to the 15U, you mentioned them earlier. They've already booked their flights to Phoenix, so they are confident. Team Ish came in the standings at 6.
Yeah, another dominant weekend, and they were without 2 starters, potentially 2 of their best players. Confirmed they will be ready and healthy in time for Virginia Beach, which is their next tournament. But Carlos Marshall, in their absence, stepped up big time and kind of showed really the intrigue behind the prospect that he is. He's 6'6". In the game I watched, probably flirted with a triple-double a bit. Really, really solid passer for his size. He's got a built-out, chiseled frame already. Continuing to now take that next step and develop as a floor spacer and as a shooter, but skill-wise as a passer, it's there. He's got a tremendous motor as a rebounder as well, but also has the frame and the size to be able to score through contact at the rim and play, a number of different spots on the floor. So,
absolutely. Two teams that also went 4-0, making in their debut weekend were One Life, One Shot, who had a pretty tough weekend, 4 close games, but they've managed to pull them all out, along with Future Prep. There's a different story for them. They had 3 games with 20-plus point wins, and then a tough, gritty win over Vision Sports Association, 80-75. So, do you like anyone from them?
Didn't get to see Future Prep this weekend, but I'm looking forward to seeing them in the next few weeks. They are a program that's actually affiliated with Shamgod. And this was their first weekend with us. So very excited to have those guys and looking forward to seeing what they're going to do. They're going to be playing a lot of games in a short amount of time, probably 3 straight weekends. They're off this weekend and then 3 straight weekends to end of the spring to get to that number of 16 that we need from all of our teams. So
speaking of 16, we're going to get to the standings very, very soon. But before we get there, Shanku started this segment last week, and we'll let him continue. He's going to do a little bit of a breakdown on one of our prospects.
Yeah, Ethan, please feel free to join in. I know you're a talented scout, but just share your thoughts as well. But
people in this chat have said that I'm washed, but I'll go and chime in and show that I still belong.
Let's go. John, if we could bring up Eli Ellis. Here we go. So I just want to start over the start of this clip, just the technique on this straight line drive. Because Eli Ellis isn't the most athletic player, but he understands angles really well. And here he is getting his right shoulder into the hip of his defender, really getting that angle down, gets a foot on him. And then he waits, perfect timing, waits for the low man to rotate over. And this 180-degree jump pass to set up an easy dunk. I mean, that's just so fun.
People talk about his scoring, but this is what we're talking about. He does so much more than just score the basketball.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And that's, I think, what I wanted to focus on mostly. Everyone talks about his scoring, but his feel, his playmaking, his processing speed, his flashy passes without turning it over is just really stood out to me this past weekend. Here he is again. Sorry. Here he is again, this time off the offensive glass. I mean, look at this pass. He sees 2 defenders here, and then next thing you know, I mean, that's just unbelievable. He throws up the goggles. He knows that one. I mean, that's just
ridiculous.
So
He's ridiculous. He's ridiculous. And I think people just need to understand, again, yes, he has a lot of followers. Yes, he's big time. But he can really play basketball. It doesn't matter what league it is. I know that we're the new kids on the block. He led Adidas in points last year when he played on the 3SSB. Like, the kid can ball. He won MVP of OTE with over 24 and 5 stars in that league. Wow. Like, you think about it. The dude is just a player, man. Yeah. Just a player. But yes, he can do a lot. He's also a very talented scorer.
Yeah, super talented scorer. Scored from all 3 levels. But again, I just wanted to highlight the playmaking. Here he is in ball screen action. High ball screen here. Here he is again, just using at pace, his handle, timing. Another just incredible behind the shoulder. His man missed the bunny, but that's just an unbelievable pass.
For young guards watching this, watch the way that he sets up ball screens. Look how patient he is with taking his angles, and he takes his time. Every kid that I watch nowadays wants to go, and sprint into a ball screen. Let it develop. Let your guys set you a high ball screen, pick your angle, and be patient. Trust your ball handling, handle ball pressure, and you'll create a lot more space than if you're just putting your head down and sprinting into the paint with no plan.
Yeah, his pace and poise out of ball screen action really stuck out to me, like you mentioned, Ethan. And there's going to be a few more clips, but here he is again in isolation. I just want to go back to the start of this. Just breaking his defender down. He uses a hezzy, and then that doesn't work out, so he goes into a counter, and then tough left-right footwork, under control. Not the best footwork, but it's just so under control and balanced. That's just a tough shot. Here he is.
He's a tough shot maker. I mean, it doesn't matter how tough the shot is. It seemed like he just was going to make it.
Yeah, I mentioned that with his brother. Just all the confidence in the world as a shot maker, shot creator. Here he is again in ball screen action. another high ball screen. Or this time it's Isaac. And then this is a common action they ran. Roll and replace action. Here he is coming off to the perimeter. And he gets the ball. Probably could have taken an open three here, but he decides to attack the driving lane, attacks the high foot of his man. Playing off 2 feet, patient, shot fakes. I mean, that's just lab work at its finest. Here he is again. Another ball screen. And then here again, the pace. And this is a perfect example of a play they like to run. The strong side corner will lift up. He sees the strong corner defender tagging the roll man, so he lifts to the left wing, and Eli finds him on the move, live dribble, on target and on time for an open three. Here he is again, Ethan, like you said, just orchestrating that pick and roll so perfectly. Again, this is his time. He's manipulating the ball screen, getting downhill, and then manipulating defenders with his eyes, throwing no-look passes, creating passing windows. And, I mean, this is just so advanced. I mean, this pass really just puts the cherry on top. Ball screen again. This time it's a flat ball screen, and it's a Spain pick and roll, which means a third man will set a defender on the screener's man. And off that, it's just a lot of trust here. Like, there seems like no possible passing window, but he trusts his big to get to his spot at the right time, and he throws a no-look dart. I mean, that's just so tough.
That's something, Shanku, that we saw. I think it was like 10 a.m. or something on Friday. They came and shot around. It was him, the big fella, and his brother, and they were working on that. They were working on the timing of those type of things, and that doesn't just come, out of the blue. Those are things you have to work on. So for the young players watching this, he didn't just get this way overnight. They have put in the lab work time and time and time again, and it shows on the brightest stages.
I mean, he's just 6'2". He's not the most athletic guy, but he understands angles. He understands space, how to attack space, how to manipulate space, and gets to his spots, creates for himself and others at such a high level that I mean, he's a pro, in my opinion. He's a future pro. I don't know what level of pro, but he's definitely a pro.
All right, let's get great breakdown. Eli's definitely very talented. If you don't leave this show with anything, leave it knowing the kid can play some basketball. Like he's a hooper. So, and I'm really excited to see in Memphis and Wichita him go against a lot of our best. Again, they had one of the easier schedules in that weekend as you compare it to some others. And I think as you look at it, it's going to be interesting. Let's Ethan's on. So let's get to our standings for the next side. We did a Pro16 update earlier. Before we get there, Ethan, for someone it's their very first time watching this, they have no clue how this whole thing works. The top 16 is so important because those are the teams at each age that in a very new concept, they get to play the top 16 teams in the Pro 16. And that is, they'll clash. 32 teams will play in Phoenix. That is for 15U and 16U, the championship. So it will be played completely. For 17U, the beautiful part for 17U is if you get into this top 16, that means you are playing Pro 16 teams in Phoenix and in Indy. Both times, the live period last year that we had in Houston had over 350 college coaches, and the live period in Omaha that we had for the one after that had well over 250 coaches. So it's a big time opportunity because as we really have learned from players, in the past, and we're going to see it more in the future here because I think the next has gotten even more talented. There's going to be next players that their entire lives change from playing in those Pro 16 matchups, and they play well in front of the right coaches. So that's why the 16 matters so much, because everything is so focused on getting those matchups in those live periods, in the main gym, on the main courts, in front of the college coaches, and the teams control it. We are one of the only people out there that are doing it that way, where there's no subjectiveness to this. The standings are what they are based on how the results of the teams. And that's why teams can move up and down even if you don't play, because 30% of it is strength of schedule. And so that means, hey, you didn't play, but this team played that you won, and maybe they went 4-0. So then, you moved up a couple spots because your strength of schedule got better. So there's all things that go into it. But I also wanted to mention, and we won't highlight it tonight, but we will highlight it in future shows going forward. The top 150 makes the next finals. And that is imperative because that gives you an opportunity to compete for a spot on the Pro 16 the next year at 15s and 16s. And obviously at 17 is a great opportunity to go win the championship. So that's what's at stake. Those are the two things. And then there also is the next invitational with which Ethan, I'll give to you because I've talked too much. Explain to people what is the next invitational tournament, the NITR version.
Our version of the NIT, the next invitational, but it's going to be a really fun event, and everybody's going to Nebraska. So get ready to enjoy Omaha and Lincoln with the rest of us here at NXTPRO. We've been there far too many times over the last few years, but we love it. So the next invitational, if you're outside the top 150, then you will play in that tournament. You're still competing for something. Kind of TBD on exactly what that is yet, but obviously it's a championship at the end of the year. But again, outside of that top 150, that's the next invitational for 17, 16, and 15U, and that is held in Lincoln or Omaha, Nebraska at the end of the year.
And we will have some information on what Ethan just said was TBD for next week. So we'll get you that. We know what it is, but we're just making you wait a little bit longer. All right, let's start with 11U because we will have in Omaha the next middle school championships, and that starts at 11U. So, John, who do we have there? We'll start with 16. It's the MPLS Reapers just inside that top 16. Team B Will is at 15. Made Prospects at 14. They're not going to be playing too far from home if they're able to make the championship bracket there in the next middle school championships in Omaha because they are very much down the road. Central Flight, AO Flight, bunch of flights there at 12 and 13. Grand Park Premier's at 11. Cap City Clutch is at 10. Bulls Nation at 10. Bulls Nation, I should say, at 9. DMV Hoop Stars at 8. Chapman Basketball at 7. Alabama Generals. Let's give Alabama Generals some love. They've had some really good performances across all their ages, especially with this 11U group. They've got some major, major upside. Team Signs, GH5, Texas Flames, World-Class Renegades. They won the next at 16U. This team's got a real chance to win the 11U with the talent they have in their roster. And the NJ Pirates are at the number 1 spot. For 12U, Team Museum leads the way. They had an awesome weekend out of the D.C. area. They dominated, absolutely dominated. Grand Park Premier is at 2. Run as 1. Teal is at 3. AO Flight 4. Team United Texas at 5. GH5 at 6. Team Warwick at 7. Run as 1. Next at 8. And you're noticing, if you haven't noticed already, a lot of these teams start to show up and populate across multiple age groups. Cap City Clutch, one of those at number 9. At number 10 is Palmetto City Hurricanes. Central Flight is at 11. Porter Basketball Academy, which is MPJ's younger teams, they're at 12. Extreme Pressure is at 13. South Washington Select at 14. Central Washington Select at 15. And another DMV team. The top team is the DMV team, and the 16th team is the DMV team, the DMV Hoop Stars. At 13U, Run as 1 Teal. Again, you're starting to notice a trend. They had a team in the top 8 at 12U. They've got the number 1 spot right now at 13U. Team Grind had a very good weekend. They're at number 2. I think if you look at the middle school, Team Grind is making a case legitimately that they could be the team to go take it at multiple ages. Brea Ballers has a good squad at 13U at number 3. Any Hoops Elite, that's the first time you've heard their name in the top 16. Their 13U has really rose to the occasion. Louisiana Cardinals, same thing. First time named University of Hoops at 7. Team B Will at 7. And World Class Renegades at 8. World Class Renegades is everywhere on this middle school list. Cincinnati Dominators. First off, guys, that's a great name.
What a name.
Cincinnati Dominators. That's an incredible name.
Yeah.
I love it.
CBA South Select, Team Warwick, Team GME, and Team Oklahoma. That's the first time you've heard them in the top 16. They come in at 13 in the 13U standings. New Day Elite, Epic Academy, and Fam Elite is at 16. Guys, what stands out, 11U to 13U, to me, what stands out the most is you see so many of those same programs at middle school that they're up here at the top. And, whether it's a team grind or whether it's run as one, who we saw multiple times, those groups, I think it's just impressive at their development at that young age.
Well, look, middle school circuit, first month, it's off and running, right? But I feel like we haven't heard enough about it yet. And the Jolly Twins, JBL Elite, 11 and 12U.
Tough.
Now, multiple ranking sites have these guys as two of the top kids in the country for their age groups. They're coming, and they're starting in Memphis in about a week here. That middle school circuit is going to get wild here, I think, towards the end of the year, especially going into Nebraska. Everybody in their own age division. That 11U team, world-class Renegades, Matt, beat a number of 12U teams up in Centralia last weekend. They are very, very strong. So 11, 12, 13U, really the true middle school ages. We're going to we're gonna have some smoke go down in Nebraska at the end of the year.
It'll be very fun. And those teams will compete in most age groups at a bracket of over 50 teams for one crown. Let's move to the 14U, where it is loaded. It is really loaded. This is going to be a bracket of more than 64 programs that are punching their ticket. Here's the top 16 for you tonight. It's Boxers Basketball Club at 16, GSA All-Stars at 15, CBA North. You've heard a lot of CBA. CBA is Chapman Basketball Academy. They've got a North, a South, and a few, I want to say a West and an East. I mean, they're kind of all over. I can't confirm the West and the East. We'll have to come back to that. But I do know they're all over the state of Wisconsin, and they're all over the 11U, 12U, 13U, 14U standings, doing very well. Run as one. I mean, did you expect them not to be in here? They've been in here every age so far. Grand Park Premier, Rice Basketball Academy, Team Museum in the top 10 from the DMV. Delaware Certified Hoops. They said on the show earlier they got the best uniforms. I still haven't seen them, but we're going to put them potentially in that category for that uniform bracket down the road. Select Basketball out of Idaho is in there at 8. SEMO making their first appearance as a program at 7 in the 14U standings. BTI Pressure Elite, you're going to hear them a lot coming up soon. They're at 6 at 14U. South U, another good name. I like that name a lot. They are in the top 5 for 14U. Brea Ballers, another group that you've heard multiple times already on the show in the top 16. GH5 at 3. Peoria Pride Athletics at 2. And Road to Greatness, a team that we're expecting a lot from at 14U. They have delivered so far, so we're really excited about what their group is bringing to the table, Ethan.
Yep, I believe 8-0 now,
Yep.
and rolling. So 14U, like you said, Matt, that's going to be a loaded bracket from top to bottom. There's a lot of talent in 14U. Definitely excited to see how it shakes out.
And the winner of 14U is not guaranteed a 15U Pro 16 spot, but is going to be heavily considered. Meaning, if we have a team run the table, there's a decent chance they're going to be in the Pro 16 15U spot. All right, let's move up to 15U, where they are guaranteed the winner of this in the next finals will make an appearance in the Pro 16 the following year. We start with the last 4 in and the first 4 out. This is for Phoenix for the Pro 16 live period that will be completed. The entire championship of 15U will be there in Phoenix. As of right now, the Louisiana Cardinals, they're sitting on the outside looking in at 20. Developing character is at number 19. They're not just developing character. They're good. They're good at basketball. Supreme, Lincoln Supreme is at number 18. And Team GME is at number 17. A lot of Supremes here. Team Supreme, this one's out of Arizona. They're at number 16. Clarksville Crossovers is at number 15. Might be the best jerseys in the circuit. We've been talking a lot about jerseys in the show. That purple and gold is a clean look. Rice Basketball Academy at 14 and Lincoln Supreme 2. How about this? Guys, is this not beautiful? They're at number 13. Lincoln Supreme, what I absolutely love is when the quote-unquote second team is ahead of the top team. You got to show up. Just because your program says you're the top team, you still got to show up. And we saw that last year with the Iowa Barnstormers. Actually, in the next finals, they ended up playing each other at the 17U. So, hey, anything can happen. What stands out to you there just with those 8 teams, the teams that are on the outside looking in? Ethan, what of those groups, do you think have a real good chance of moving up. Obviously, they all have a great chance, but
yeah, developing character. I'll start with them. I've seen them in person. They're really talented. Ian Edmonds, their lead guard on that team, but they've got a number of other pieces that can really go. They're going to be dangerous. I think they're here to stay. Clarksville crossovers as well. Let's go back to them. They're now 9-3. They're the highest rated 3-loss team in 15U, and I think they now have 3 Pro 16 wins. They beat West Virginia Gold this past weekend by 2. Had another solid weekend out in Indianapolis. 9-3. They're in Wichita for the live period next, and will look to finish off their season. Again, the magic number that we floated around is 13 wins. But I think if you have a really, really solid schedule and you have that resume behind you, you can sneak in with 12. But you need 13 to feel safe. You need 13.
I think we need to have a conversation because I don't know that 13 guarantees it. But we're going to talk about that after we go through the standings. All right, John, roll the 16. We know the last 4 because we just gave them to you in 15U. But we've got go back to 15U. You're on 16U. Forgive us. Technical difficulties. 12 is Houston Apex. Exposure Sports is at 11. Team 94, been a pleasant surprise in Louisiana. They're at 10. Pack Basketball, not a surprise. I mean, they went 12-0 as a program this weekend. They're at 9. Young Hustle is at 8. BYC Elite Mexico is at 7. GSA Heat at 6. Oregon Prospects, pretty impressed with their 15U group. They're in the top 5 in the country in the 15U standings, as is Team Warwick. Oklahoma Wolfpack, some love. How about it? Good job, Wolfpack. That's cool to see as an Oklahoma native. They have always been a consistent program that's been solid, and to be in the top 3 of 15U, it's impressive. You got to keep it up, though. Team Ish, a.k.a. the group who's calling their shot, they basically said, hey, we're going to Phoenix, so we're going to go ahead and just book our flights. Toronto Select joins them at the top spot all by themselves. 15U, who's the favorites right now? You think out of that group for both of you? Give me your favorites.
I'm an Oklahoma native now, so I'm going Oklahoma Wolfpack. They've got some Pro 16 wins.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's not a fluke.
I think they're 19-0, including all the independent events they played this season. So,
hold on. 19-0.
19-0.
Wow.
Pro 16 wins in Dallas. That is not a fluke. That's a real group that down there in Oklahoma City, I believe, right, Matt? Is that where they're out of?
I believe so.
They're a little bit all over.
They've got a few
Oklahoma City. Coach Baker's got his squad out of there. Ethan, who do you like?
Still like Team Ish.
Okay.
Again, I gotta roll with them.
John, throw those standings back up again. Throw those standings back up.
When you got an NBA,
what's off right now is Toronto Select.
I agree. And look it.
We should have 2 people pick against the number 1 team currently.
15U as a whole is so top heavy. I mean, GSA Heat was the number 1 seed for a really, really long time. They have Pro 16 wins as well. Sheldon Cobbin, we've seen him a couple of times. Shanku can really, really go. Young Hustle just ran through a pool in Indianapolis against multiple Pro 16 teams. They're now 11-1. Houston Apex is 11-1. They've got a future Division I kid on that roster in Jaquarian Lincoln, who has been dominant all spring. But yeah, Toronto Select now 12-0. They've shown no signs of slowing down. I don't know if their paths will ever cross with Team Ish in the spring. That might be a Nebraska matchup, one for the ages.
Hold on. Are they both going to Wichita? That's the question.
Team Ish is now
probably be the place.
Team Ish is in Cincinnati to end off.
They're running from it. They're running from it, folks.
But I think right now it's you've got a number of different options. And like I said, I'm going to go back to it. May is the month of separation. So you've got all these teams that are now all together. They're all undefeated. Whatever they've done up to this point doesn't matter. Now you've got to go out and continue to win basketball games, and you might have to get to 14 wins in 15U. I might agree with that.
I think you're going to have to get to 14 to feel safe. To host that pizza party and not be worried about kids crying at the end of it, probably going to need 14 wins, folks. Let's go to 16U. Let's look at those. Here's your last 4 in, first 4 out. First 4 out, Team Oklahoma. Shanku's boys. He said he's biased to Oklahoma. You heard him. They're at number 20. Team Supreme Black, that is the group out of Arizona at number 19, just outside of it. Team Utah Black, just outside of it at number 18. That's a really talented group. Select, They are at number 17. That is the next group for them. They are also Pro 16, but this is the next group. And then inside, just inside, Teamish 16U. They're not feeling comfortable right now. They're feeling a little uneasy. They are sleeping maybe on some not so comfortable parameters right now. Let's just say that. So they've got a lot of work to do. Spokane Elite Blue at 15, OTP at 14 out of Atlanta, Georgia, and Lincoln Supreme 2 is in the number 13 spot. So, John, now show me the standings. Is Lincoln Supreme in there twice? No.
One's on the outside, which again,
wow.
Two's proved it. Two's I believe 8.
I mean,
We brought it.
We need to have a talk with, I mean, labeling a team 1 and 2 apparently, because again, second time in a row. That all sorted itself out though, because Ethan said it. It's the month of separation.
Yep.
May is separation. So we're going to find out, are they for real or are they not?
Hey, put that quote up on the.
Hey, we need to put that on a t-shirt. May is the month of separation. Coming to you soon. All right, let's talk about the top 12. We had him on earlier in the show. Grind Family Chicago. My man Ron Thomas, his group is in the Pro 16 finals as of right now. They got to keep earning it, though. They're at the 12th spot. GSA Elite is at 11. Gainesville Stampede RSC is at 10. United Pursuit at 9. Oklahoma Wolfpack. Pretty impressive. They got 2 teams in the top 8, both 1 and 15U at number 3. And this group here at 16U at number 8. Exposure Sports at 7. Rose City Ballers at number 6. Inside the top 5. Florida Bayhawks Factory out of Arizona at 4. BTI Pressure at number 3. NTX Raptors at number 2. For the first time all season, they have been overtaken by Pack Basketball, the Fighting Liams. They had a great weekend. They went 12-0 as a program. This team went 4-0, and this team is 12-0 right now. They're 2 wins away from absolutely clinching their spot. They'll still have work to do to clinch the number 1 overall seed, but it's been really impressive, Ethan, what they've done so far, going 12-0.
Phenomenal outing, but they've got work to do. I think Liam would be the first one to tell you that. And this 16U group, I mean, they looked the part. So there's a couple of teams in that top 5, which I'm really on board with for 16U based on what they've done to this point. But Pack has proved far and away that so far with their resume, obviously being 12-0, they're the number 1 team, and I expected nothing less when the button was pushed this morning.
They're so deep.
Shanku, who's your favorite?
I said Pack earlier, but I think it's going to be a dogfight between them and BTI Pressure. BTI Pressure's got a few D1 prospects in Ethan Sabick and Top Goal.
They've got some athletes.
Yeah, they've got some huge size. It's something Pack kind of lacks at the 16U age division, but they've got so many dudes in Cooper Carr, Kayvon Bonner, Zach Fritz, and, I mean, well coached too. So it's a really well-rounded team.
Ethan, who sticks out to you beyond those we've already talked about?
Show me that list again. I gotta see who's on here. I would like to say BTI Pressure, but I've got opinions on a couple of other teams. Gainesville Stampede RSC. I'm gonna give these guys their flowers. They're 11-1. They played in a super tough pool with a kind of a tough schedule this weekend. They had a tough shake with just times and different things like that. But they went 3-1. This was their first loss of the season. But again, still 11-1. Pretty close to being able to lock in their spot. They've got a group of 6 or 7 guys that plays really hard, super well coached. They're going to be a tough out for just about anybody down the stretch.
Well, let's talk about a team like Gainesville Stampede RSC. They played in 2 of the tournaments to go 8-0 that weren't as loaded. And so they loaded up on wins. But again, this is a team that they might need 14 because their schedule is not as strong. This weekend to go 3-1 with a stronger schedule, I think that was a big step in them going forward. So shout out to them. Good job, RSC out of Gainesville. So let's head to the 17U. That's what it's all about, folks. 17U, it's where you're getting recruited. And the first thing that jumps out to me is logos right now. Juice County Juice County players, I should say, and Delaware certified hoops. I don't know if that's how your uniforms look. It's an interesting look. I have to take that one into account a little bit. But here's your last 4 in, first 4 out. Why is this so significant? This is significant because the top 16 teams that make it in get to go to Phoenix And they don't get to just go to Phoenix for the Pro 16 finals. They also get to go to Indy. And they don't just get to just go to those tournaments. They get to play in what is the premier event in Phoenix and in Indianapolis on the main courts in front of the college coaches at 17U with everybody watching. Last year, like we mentioned earlier in the show, over 350 coaches at the first session of that in July and over 250 at the second. So let's talk about the last four that are in first. Delaware Certified Hoops. They had a big weekend to get them to this level of 13 and a jump. Jay Uno out of Texas holding down a top 16 spot. For those that don't know, that is whose program, Ethan?
Jamal Shed, who probably would have been a national champion this year. No disrespect to UConn if you just stayed at 50. Unfortunately, Jamal came down with that ankle injury.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Jay Uno doing a tremendous job behind Jamal, behind his dad, Elvin, behind his brother, Jalen. They are doing a tremendous job. Now, 4-0, they went their first weekend in Dallas. They stacked wins. They took care of business. They're in Bryan this weekend in a very tough pool.
Yeah, they've got to show up because if they don't,
month separation. They've got to continue to win. They're 4-0, but again, proven that they want to stay in this last four in or at least jolt above it.
Yeah, you want to improve your position. Sleep well at night. Don't be number 14. Norcross Heat, number 15. I gotta say, Ethan, that's the craziest one on this thing because Norcross Heat is really freaking good, like really good. So for them to be 15 shows me there's depth. There is so much depth.
There is. They lost to Delaware Certified this weekend.
That's a big win, Delaware Certified.
Came down.
Big win.
Norcross Heat lost to Delaware Certified on Saturday night. 4 injuries. Alex Young, Hayden Ware, 2 of their starters did not play on Sunday against Hill City Crash. Jeremiah Ruffin, their new addition, absolutely balled out all weekend. He's getting Division I interest from a number of schools right now. He's going to be a kid that absolutely takes off at the live period, and he carried them to a win over a very good Hill City Crash team. If Norcross Heat was 5-3, they might not be showing up anywhere near these lists. But now with that win, that was potentially a season-saving win that Coach Marshawn Hampton and his group put together to keep his team in the right side of the last four in right now.
Just barely in, but they're in. Let's keep rolling. Number 16 is Team FVV, who played a really, really tough schedule this weekend. So they're just scratching in. I know that the great group out of Rockford, of course, Team FVV, Fred Van Vliet's program. I know Joe and his guys out there, they're going to be sweating a little bit seeing this 16. Joe, we got to pick it up, baby. It's a month of separation in May. You got to separate. You got to pick it up. It's just the way it goes. But keeping it moving, Grand Park Premier next is at number 17. They kind of played West Virginia Gold tough. West Virginia Gold had a horrible weekend this last weekend. I mean, a horrible weekend. Their Pro 16 17U team did. But they did win that game against a tough Grand Park Premier next squad. Cap City Scrappers is at number 18. Elite Morris just on the outside looking in. They've got a talented group at number 19. And Juice County Players, love that logo. That's a pretty sick logo. They're at number 20. So they've got work to do. All right. Before I get your thoughts on 17U, John, show us the top 16. All right. We know 13 through 16. Number 12 is Team Spades. I got to be honest. They should be sweating a little bit. Mo Buckets, you know I love you. You got to perform in the month of May because right now you're on the cusp. You have to perform. I mean, you're going to have your team do one of those old school Warriors playoff runs. Don't do the 73 win run though. But you're gonna have to have one of those runs because right now at 12, he's got one of the best groups. Unbelievable talent. All of these teams in this top 16 are so freaking good. It's not even funny. Iowa Barnstormers is at 11. Texas Wildcats is at 10. Clutch Elite is at 9. Family, you heard they had another team that was close. This team is in the top 8, sitting pretty comfortable right now. OTP is at 7 out of Georgia. OTP, I got to give it to their program. They've really impressed me with what they've been able to do. Number 6 is Strictly Ballas. Team KST, which we learned what it standed for earlier in the show. They're at number 5. Select Basketball next is at 4. All right. Flashback. They're at number 4, guys. Select Basketball is probably going to get 2 teams in this thing. They've obviously got a Pro16 team who's number 1 right now, but they also got another team that's in the top 5 next. Pretty dang impressive for 17U.
Yeah, this select basketball Jansen team, I believe is what their name is.
Yep.
They would push the Pro16 team to the limit. They are talented. They deserve to be here. They're 8-0 with a ton of quality wins. Everybody in this top 16 deserves to be here. I don't know why I singled out just them, but they're a talented group. They've got the making and the look of a group that's going to be in Phoenix in a couple of weeks, as long as they keep it up. But they're going to Memphis and Wichita, which are 2 that are not going to not going to be kind to them. They're going to be they're going to get some matchups and have to prove that they belong. So
that they are. All right, rounding out, number 1 spot is still Rogue. They have not played in a long time.
Over a month.
They play this weekend. We'll see if they can keep that spot. Team Utah Black right on their heels at 2, and Prominent Elite out of Vegas. Shanku, you talked about some of their prospects earlier in the show. This is a group. They might have the goods to make a real run and win this thing.
Yeah, they're 8-0. They were awesome last year. They made a pretty significant run last year, if I remember correctly. Yep. Mason Abbott their leader, 6'6" wing. I mentioned him earlier, but they're a well-rounded team, and they could definitely – I wouldn't be surprised if we see them in the finals down in Omaha.
Wouldn't either. All right, early picks here. You got to make a selection. Who do you pick out of those 16 teams? Next champion.
So I'm going to go with a team outside the top 16. I think they're going to work their way in slowly but surely. I got two picks outside the top 16. BTI Pressure Elite and Pack Basketball. I like them. I think Pack is just getting their legs behind them. They've had some injuries. They're finally healthy. They went 4-0 this past weekend. They've got a tough schedule this weekend in KC, but I think it'll be a big test for them and a really big indicator going forward.
Pack is at 24 for those that don't know. That was interesting.
BTI is at 33, I believe. So
I mean, listen, BTI Pressure Elite 17, they're super talented. They're in the spot that Norcross was almost in. Norcross 6-2, BTI 5-3. BTI Pressure Elite 17s, they can't afford to lose any more games.
They had a tough schedule in Dallas.
They have an extremely tough schedule everywhere.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, they got to find a way to win games. They got to find a way to go 4-0
for sure.
In some of these weekends. But Ethan, who would your pick be?
I like where Shanku's headed. I do think 17U is going to be a surprise age. I think obviously there's some really, really good teams in the top 16. It hurts me not to just say Team Utah based on kind of what I've seen to this point. I think Team Utah has the making to actually make a Pro 16 finals run in Phoenix, similar to a couple of the teams that we saw last year. But Colorado Collective Murphy, I think they are scratching the surface of what they could become. Their first weekend, they went, I believe it was 1-3 in Omaha, April 5th through the 7th. That was their first tournament together as a team. 6'11", Kassan Westfall, and Gatorade Player of the Year, Cole Scherer, who was part of the Colorado Collective team who made the Pro 16 finals last year, playing up in age, is now playing in his own age division that has been dominating the entire year. Colorado Collective, they're 8-4 right now. They had a solid weekend out in Fort Collins this weekend. I think they're just turning the corner. They're in Kansas City again this weekend, looking to handle business out there. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't know about them. They're in 5 spring events. So you guys know what that means. We take their 4 best, which is going to be huge. That 1-3 could be dropped. And that's another
factor. The warm-up event helps.
A lot of teams didn't take into account, but we told them, hey, look, we're going to take your 4 best in the spring. Collective, kudos to those guys.
They're vets. They're vets, man. They're vets. They know
the now again, that's not guaranteeing anything. They've still got to go out there and win games. They go 1-3 again. It doesn't matter that they're playing in another, in another event with us. But they're turning the corner. I think they're a group that's going to be really interesting to watch. However, if I was to give you one more that I really like in that top 16, it's OTP. Top to bottom, they've got the makeup of a team that could make a really deep run, and I like what they're putting together.
I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go on this 17U. I'm just looking down the list, even at teams. I mean, BTI is obviously Pressure Elite is one of those at 33 that really sticks out. But I mean, you can go way down here. Hill City Crash is sitting at 39 at 6-2. They haven't played the toughest schedule. Urban DFW Elite is a really good 5-3 team. 17U to feel comfortable, you better get to 14 wins. If you have 13 or 12, you better have played a really hard schedule. There will be, I think, a couple teams, Ethan, that get in with 13 or 12 wins that were rewarded for their strength of schedule because they won early and then they got really tough Pro 16 matchups, and maybe they suffered a few losses as opposed to some other teams that, that didn't play well early and played better later, but didn't play as hard of a schedule. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think 17U is the one age where the lower win count could still get you in. I think 15 and 16U, you're going to need a higher win count to get in because we've seen a lot more of next on Pro 16 victories. But if you have a Pro 16 win in 17U, that's not very common. Pro 16 teams, for the most part, have handled next teams this year at the 17U age division. You guys said it earlier in the show. That's how it was in Indianapolis this weekend. A lot of teams got a reality check when they saw TLBA and those guys. But so with that being said, if you have a Pro 16 win already at 17U and you have the opportunity to get a couple of more, that could really, really help you down the line. I think that's something that, again, this is all kind of just speculation, but could make up a 2-win difference potentially for you on the standings if you have a plethora of Pro 16 wins.
Well, fellas, this was fun. 2 hour and 21 minutes that we've been at this, Shanku. So fun show. Yeah. Corban, we missed you. Ethan, thanks for coming on. Ron Thomas, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you. That's going to do it for us. You can't say we didn't cover a lot because we did cover a lot, and there's only going to be more to cover in the coming weeks. This weekend, we are in Bryan, Texas. Let's see if I can remember them all. Bryan, Texas, Geneva, Ohio, Kansas City, Kansas, in a brand new home field facility. That's going to be very cool. And in Scoot Henderson's hometown, we will be at Next Play for girls session number 2, and we'll have more from that and many, many more things, as well as next week, a preview of the matchups in Memphis and in Wichita. So going to be some exciting stuff. But gentlemen, appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will catch you next week.
Month of separation.
Month of separation.